All right then, cool. So let's get this underway. This is going to be a bit of a new take. I know that a lot of people have asked for an updated tier list or some kind of just rating of the characters in the game right now, and have been asking for a while. And I know it's been a long time since, for those watching on YouTube, or even those here with me on Twitch, that have seen us do some kind of tier list, or just anything like this in MK11. It's been a long time. So I decided that at the moment, while the community is looking through customs quite heavily, and obviously interview with Ed Boon has gone out with GameSpot, talking about how we'd like to see customs be a thing, and people are talking about doing custom exhibitions here and there, and whatever. Before people get too focused on customs, I figured now would be a really good time to just really look over the tournament variations and talk about them. But for the first time, this isn't actually going to be a tier list as such, and that's the main thing I want to say going into this video is, do not look at this as a tier list, because this isn't me saying these are the best characters, these are the worst. I am purely looking at the variations, and I'm looking at the variations relative to each character, and that is the way I would like to look at this game, because I find tier lists are a bit too definitive. And I feel like they obviously they serve a purpose, but I figured it would be worth trying something a little bit different this time, which is something that people have suggested a lot in the past that I've not done, which is a tournament variation tier list. So even though this isn't really a tier list, I'm going to be rating each tournament variation on specific categories, right? And as you can see on the screen, I'm going to be having the best variations are those that truly optimize the character and make them play the absolute best possible way that you can in this game. A+ is going to be variations that improve the character by, you know, plugging up character flaws. If the character has a universal weakness, these will be the variations that really cater to those weaknesses and improve in those areas. A rank are going to be variations that alter the character, so they will improve certain areas, but maybe there will be overlapping moves that maybe downgrade them in certain other ways. B variations will be variations that just straight up don't really help the character. They don't really make a whole lot of difference, despite having extra moves. And then our worst variations, there aren't going to be many down here, but there will be a couple, which I believe actively make the character worse, and straight up are not really worth picking at all for the most part. These are all going to be variations that are, again, it's relative to each character's strength. I will be putting variations in S tier from characters that would not normally be considered S tier characters, because remember, I'm rating the variations based on how those characters are and what those variations do for the characters. We're not talking about how incredible or terrible certain characters are. Obviously, you know, I'm happy to discuss this, so, you know, here on Twitch chat, I won't be talking to and from as much, because obviously this is going on YouTube as well, and I'd like this to not be a 3-hour video. But I'm going to go into detail, and I'm happy to talk about it with you guys. Yeah, so let's get started. I'm going to go from each variation as it brings them up here. I'm going to be throwing them in. First things first, Eternal is going straight to S. Eternal Garris is, in my opinion, the strongest Garris variation out there right now, especially with Garris post-nerfs. I genuinely think that Eternal is the best variation you can play in tournaments for this character. You get, you keep the default glove, so the floor block gaps into forward 2 no longer really have to apply to you because you can play around it with the gauntlet. You keep a universal launcher, so obviously that isn't going to hurt you. You still get a lot of damage. But the big thing is just the straight-up keep away. Garris has taken movement nerfs, sand trap nerfs, but the one thing that has remained untouched the whole time is the sand clone, the sand simulacrum, which is one of the only free teleports in the game. It costs no bar, it takes minimal time to set it up, and obviously it is a matchup changer for an absolutely ridiculous amount of characters. Eternal has very little flaws. It has, and this is where we talk about optimizing the character, right? It takes nothing away from the character, and it adds things that really, really benefit the character. Being, you have the standing breakaway, which is a unique thing to Garris that everyone has to play around. You have to be looking for it. And it adds the sand clone, which you obviously have to be looking for. It really is a crazy move by itself, as sand clone. And that one attack gives him more pressure, it gives him more plus frames, it gives him, you know, mind games with his command grab. Like, anyone that gets plus frames and has a mid command grab and a mid attack behind it, and a mid that you can make safe in that variation, is going to be really strong. And we're all seeing how, you know, Eternal, like Gur's Eternal, is absolutely running rings around people. Very strong character, and absolutely deserves to be an S tier variation, in my opinion. Madman Joker is... I think Joker across the board is really good. I don't think he has a bad variation at all. But I am gonna put Madman into Alter's character, because I think that Madman is, whilst it is very powerful, and it obviously gets like Baraka damage, it does a lot of damage for one bar, it does get crazy damage over time with the gasoline. The big thing about Madman, though, is you lose the crowbar. And losing the crowbar is a big alteration for Joker. The crowbar is a great crushing blow, the overhead does keep people on their toes, they have to always look for it. And Madman losing the crowbar is a big deal. And whilst Madman is a very strong variation by its own right, it is something that you cannot play like traditional Joker. You play a lot more for just straight up hit confirming into launcher all the time. If you're near the corner, obviously that's where you're gonna start looking at your gas can. But fundamentally, whereas Joker overall is more about loading up that crowbar crushing blow, saving it for a rainy day, and really kind of holding onto it for crucial moments. You don't get to play that style with Madman because you're looking for an altered style of a game plan where you're looking for launches, you're looking for hit confirms into big damage, and you're just taking big chunks at a time. So I'm going to put it here as an altered variation because that is exactly what it does. It does not let you play traditional Joker, but it still lets you play an effective form of Joker. Ripper, I think, really just absolutely improves. I think there's no two ways about it. Ripper absolutely improves Kano in a number of ways. Kano universally doesn't get a lot, like, he has a safe overhead and an unsafe low. But that style of character just hasn't been a thing, right? The overhead is one of his better buttons because yes, it's slow and it's very reactable, but Ripper makes it harder to react to because of the constant threat of command grab. Ripper improves Kano considerably because you get more damage off of the safe overhead. It has a crushing blow that does seem to hit more than it probably should, but it does. You just add a command grab into the mix that just makes... Again, you look at Kano's bigger problems where jailing off of pokes is hard for him because his easiest option for it is 1-1, but he doesn't get a huge amount off of 1-1 in pretty much anything that isn't Dirtbag, so it's hard to rely on because of a gap. The plus frames you don't get much from, but 1-1 ticks into command grab, so he can actually use that for it. Down 1, Kano's got one of the stronger down ones in the game, is a mind game because of the command grab. It's an unsafe mind game because down 1 ball, down 1 command grab it's risky, but it's there. But it does let you harass a lot with the threat of command grab, so they kind of have to sit there. It lets you get away with multiple pokes. It lets you get away with more overheads than usual because of that constant threat of a very strong grab that gives Oki, and obviously he gets a launcher as well in manhandled standing 2. So Ripper, it doesn't completely do everything for Kano, but it does considerably improve some areas that he's lacking. Whilst in an unsafe way, it does improve him quite a lot. So Ripper is absolutely an improved version of Kano overall. Locked and loaded Erron Black. I am gonna put this variation in. It just doesn't help. It doesn't help the character much at all, really. Whenever you see Locked and Loaded work, and I feel like all the Erron mains kind of dabble in it because it's fun to play, but I feel like when you really look at what this variation does, it's not really doing a great deal for Erron Black overall, right? Like he gets the standard strike, which, yeah, it's good for a KB if you have the acid, but it's mainly just an ender, but not having an ender isn't really a problem that Erron had. Like, slide into acid was always one of the better enders anyway. Barking Irons gets to end in command grab, so that is already a useful thing. And the bear trap is... It seems like one of the more gimmicky trap attacks in the game, right? I know that, like, this game doesn't really have effective trap moves, but I feel like even out of the two that come to mind, in Arctic Trap with Sub-Zero and the bear trap just doesn't really work out that much, you know? Like, it goes away on hit and block, it has a lot of startup. It's best really used, seemingly, like, as a preemptive ender to catch people, or if you amp it, trying to catch them slipping, but it's not really doing as much, right? When you look at what the other two variations do, and then you look at Locked and Loaded, it's a lot more gimmicky. It only really seems to work when the opponent makes a big mistake, and that's just not really what Era needs. So in my opinion, Locked and Loaded is going to be down here, because I don't think it helps the character at all until further notice. It's good for Mercy resetting people. I mean, yeah, okay, cool. You can combo off of Mercy, so it's going up here. It's the only one that gets to win off of Mercy, guaranteed. Oh, dearie me. Now, Heart Pierce is... So Scarlet's variations are going to be quite hard for me to really place, because I kind of feel like they all do the same thing for her as a character. So I very may well might just put them all in the same place. However, I do feel that Heart Pierce... I feel like, at least for Heart Pierce, I have to put this under it improves the character. Now, I know that Scarlet is not a character that is, like, you know, close to the top of the game. Like, remember, don't see this as a definitive tier list. This is not S-tier characters, A-tier characters. We're looking at what the variations do for the characters. I think Heart Pierce definitely improves Scarlet. The main thing here is one of Scarlet's biggest problems by far is... gaps. Gaps absolutely everywhere, right? Like, her jab string has a gap, her plus frames have a gap. She is probably more susceptible to gaps than almost any other character in this game. And the presence of a parry, being able to play around that on a hard read, yes, a hard read, but it does let you do that, right? You have a deterrent to making them not want to just, you know, interrupt gaps literally every time. Also, the teleport, I feel like a teleport on any character with, like, strong zoning, and that's one thing that Scarlet does have. Like, she suffers greatly point blank, right? She's not great at counter poking, she's really stubby, she doesn't have a lot of speed on her close range attacks, and she's got gaps literally everywhere. The one thing she can do well is zone, right? She can heal from projectiles, she has Tongue, which is a really good counter zoning tool, and even a straight up zoning tool against a lot of characters in the game. And then when you throw a teleport on top of that, I think it's just something that is just going to net improve the character overall. Whether it improves the character to being incredible, probably not, but it does improve Scarlet as a base. So for that reason, I'm going to put Heart Pierce up here. Final Judgment Terminator is a weird one. Because, I mean, I haven't seen very much at all of Final Judgment. I'm inclined to put it in Alters the character, because Final Judgment overall, and just I'm just reminding myself of, like, inputs as and when, just to make sure that I have the right variations and the right moves, because when you get to these variations that don't really get played that much, I want to make sure that I'm not saying anything too bad. But I definitely think that Final Judgment is... It's teetering for me between A and B, because Terminator Universe, there's only so bad a character like this could ever be. But I feel like this might be another case, because it gets the grenade and it gets Incapacitator, right? So you get elements of what was intended to be set play with Incapacitator and taking away the ability to spam bar, and then you have the confirmable launches of Ion Grenade, but it's very unsafe. So I actually think I am going to put it down here, because, like, it's still very much usable, because Terminator by himself is a really strong character, but I feel like you look at the three variations, and this one by far does the absolute least for him. Because the only reason this can still work isn't because it's good for Terminator, it's because Terminator's universal stuff kind of forces this variation to still, like, let you win games here and there. So, the big problem with Final Judgment is the fact that its grenades inherently still make it unsafe, right? Like, you can launch off things, but they're always unsafe. And he's already an unsafe character. So it just adds a bit of damage, but he's not really lacking in damage in either of the other variations either. And the Incapacitator isn't quite as effective as we all thought it would be. Like, it has potential. I think Final Judgment has potential. It's just a case of what's the point, right? Like, we're looking at all the variations for characters right now, and overall, out of all three for Terminator, I just don't think that Final Judgment is really going to do anything for him. And the big problem as well, it's not like he can just constantly throw out. This is the only variation that he has to wait for stuff to come back. Like, he has 2 grenades he can throw, and when they're gone, he has to actually wait for them to come back. When he has no grenades, he's variationless Terminator, and that isn't great. So whilst I definitely don't think it's like Terminator is bad in any way, Final Judgment is a variation that doesn't actually help him really at all. Showstopper, I firmly think is going up here. I am going to put 2 Johnny variations up in S, because I think Showstopper is absolutely nuts. Where the 2 moves Showstopper gets, and again, as I go through these, I'm just making sure I have the right moves, because I don't want to say anything wrong, like straight up wrong about inputs and whatnot. Showstopper is camera and shades. So camera is a standing stun as opposed to a launcher for the default nut punch. So the camera gives you access to restands if you want to take them. It gives you access to mad unbreakable damage, and then you get the shades. So shades give you some of the absolute best comeback potential in this game. Like, shades let you use your fatal blow to win both rounds of a match, and that is absolutely insane. Where you have big damage, you have unbreakable damage, you keep the universal force balls, and against characters that have to block them all the time, that gives you mad pressure. It just helps you in every way possible. Like, especially against characters that have to block force balls, Showstopper just makes Johnny the strongest, because it takes it takes what is good about Johnny and it just pushes it into the absolute, you know, next level of Johnny, where you get more damage off of the crazy buttons, you get an option to restand off of them, you get option to do more damage if you want, you get shades, which just, again, it all just adds to the character. The camera is pretty much a better version of the nut punch, and the shades add mad comeback potential. So in all senses, this just makes this character crazy good. The spins, I would say, looking at what makes Cabal good, I would say that the spins Cabal is probably the most optimal version of Cabal. I think that the spins is straight up the best version of Cabal you can play in tournament variations, because it takes arguably the best thing about Clean Cut in the restand, and you get a good version of a restand still. You get absolutely absurd damage for every touch. You're getting like way higher than average damage. You're getting over 500 for one of his plethora of crushing blows most of the time. The Amp Gas is one of the most bloated special moves in the tournament variations overall for the game. And it just adds everything, right? It's about taking everything that's good about Cabal and just adding to it so much. So the spins, it gives a bigger launcher, so you get more damage off of literally everything. You get a restand that you can amp for safety, that you can use as a heal, you can use as a damage over time if you set it up. And you get another launcher, which can also be a really good ender in the, you know, spinning hook. It just makes everything about Cabal better, you know, and it takes away nothing. Showstopper has big damage from what combo? Have you seen the Shades combos? I would suggest that you go into training mode and look at the combos off of the Shades. Hit the Shades crushing blow in an actual combo with a cancel, and you will see exactly what I mean. Or just go to YouTube, because that's like 1 billion combo videos out there right now. And also, the big thing about the spins is that it's really meter friendly, where to spend the bar on this requires the hook slam to connect fully. If you launch someone and go into hook slam, they want to break away. They break away before you amp the hook slam. So you make them break away before you've spent the bar. So it's also the most efficient way of comboing your opponent in playing around breakaway as well. So overall, the Spin's absolutely an optimal version of Cabal currently, by far. New Era Garris, I would say...
All we can say is, if you don't play this game,
it's hard to put down New Era now, because I feel like Eternal kind of came in and stole the spotlight. New Era is definitely good, but I don't know. I would say that New Era just straight up improves Garris, because it still gets to play the Garris style, but it doesn't actually take anything from you, right? You still get good keep away with the spike. You get good pressure options with the rollback, and that's pretty much why you pick New Era, right? But beforehand, before Variation 3's New Era was the Garris you'd pick if you wanted the command grab. But now Eternal is there, and it can play around the command grab better because of the plus frames you get from the Sand clone. New Era's kind of fallen into a strange spot in the game. But at the same time, it doesn't take anything away from Garris at all. It doesn't replace anything. It just improves him, right? Because you get the better keep away because of the Sand pillar. You get good corner combo damage because of the Sand pillar. And stepping it back just gives you, interesting pressure options, which again, paired with the command grab that is universal, gives you more options. So whilst New Era definitely isn't one of the best variations in the game, it doesn't do anything but improve Garris, because it doesn't take anything away, and the options it gives him lets him use his universal tools more, because it lets him play more around the command grab. It gives him bigger, 1 bar damage, especially in the corner using the Sand Spike, and it gives him better keep away because of the Sand Spike when used in conjunction with the Sand Trap. So I definitely think that New Era just straight up improves Garris, 100%. Force of Nature, I am going to put into Alter's character, because Force of Nature is an interesting one where it's effectively a much more long-range focused Cetrion. It has elements of close gameplay because of the ability to cancel, because of the ability to cancel the ground pound. But that's more about just kind of throwing it out every now and then. It's not something you're going to straight up be able to rely on all the time. But the big thing about Force of Nature is it does not let you play at that point blank nature. The big thing is, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm 99% sure, but you lose the wall, right? You don't get natural barrier. You get the shattering boulder instead of natural barrier. Yeah, you lose the wall. Playing Cetrion without the wall is kind of different, and this is where I'm putting it in Alters. This is definitely not a bad variation by any sense, but it alters the meta way of playing Cetrion. The meta way of, the constant threat of the wall, the constant, are you using it as a spacing tool? Are you using it to counter zone? Are you using it as a counter poke? Are you going to amp it? Are you going to not? It clearly gives people a lot of problems in the game, but by no means is the Shattering Boulder bad. It doesn't let you play it in the same way. And the ground pound is a very, again, different way of playing Cetrion. So, whilst this is definitely not bad by any means, it does change how you have to play her universally. This gives you a completely unique way of playing Cetrion. But it's also a variation that is very much not mass represented at all. So this variation could very either be improves or alters, but given what we've seen of it, I'm more inclined to put it into alters. Because I really think that this just doesn't let her play the meta style of Cetrion, but by no means is it bad. It's just not normal Cetrion, and it's not very well represented either. So it's kind of up and down, but it's definitely not bad by any means. Mean Streak Cabal. I almost want to put this into alters, but Mean Streak is either going to be improves or alters. I'm not sure. I'm more inclined to say alters, because in theory it doesn't do anything bad for Cabal, but it's very reliant on spending constant defensive bar for the cancels, which I think is definitely... So the reason I'm going to put Mean Streak in alters is because Cabal is normally known for being incredibly safe, right? Incredibly safe, incredibly reserved. You can be very patient. You can be very you could be very, you know, calm with Cabal as overall as a character. Mean Streak, to play Mean Streak is to use a lot of cancels, right? Is using the cancels, spending defensive bar, coming off of important resources all the time, ending combos in untraditional ways. You'll see a lot of Mean Streak players ending in Nomad Dash for Oki as well. It's much more around throws. Like, Mean Streak is just... Because it's a cancel character, so it's much more built around throws than traditional Cabal. Because Cabal can't normally play around throws as much, because he's very much about, like... He'll press a button and he's gonna be minus, right? Like, Cabal is gonna be minus if you block something for the most part. I know he has a couple of individual hits that can be plus, but as a general rule of thumb, Cabal, when he hits you, his turn is gonna be over, and it's a flawless block mind game at times, but he's gonna be pretty minus. Usually his turn is over. Whereas Mean Streak is about cancels, individual hit confirms, making yourself very plus, which very much opens up into playing around throws. So it can be very effective, but it completely alters the standard style of Cabal that we're used to seeing. But I mean, I have seen like Zorakamaka is the main Mean Streak player that comes to mind for me, and Zorakamaka is really good at single hit confirms with cancels. But he's been doing it for literally years. Like, I'm talking since MK9. Like, he's been hit confirming cancels for a long time. It's very hard though. It's very hard. But that's why I'm putting them in alters. And again, don't see characters here and think at all that they're bad, because these are very much not bad variations. It just completely changes the game plan. And, you know, maybe puts it into... It loses some and gains some. So don't see these variations and think they're bad by any means. Hemorrhage Scarlet... I kind of want to put her... She's teetering between alters and doesn't help. Because I definitely don't want to say that it doesn't... Because... Doesn't help indicates doesn't really do anything for them, and Hemorrhage does. It really loses. Alters. Okay, I'll tell you what. I'll go with you guys on this, because for me it could be either this or this. I'll put it in alters, but it's going to be on the lower end of alters. You know what I mean? Where Hemorrhage, of course, it's the big thing is you lose tongue, and tongue is arguably, I mean, it's absolutely one of Scarlet's strongest attacks. Going is the tongue, so losing that is a big deal. However, you gain boiling point, so you gain a massive damage special move. You get huge damage as enders. You can unbreakable with it really well. At least I'm pretty sure it's you can do a lot of unbreakable damage with it. I don't know as much about Scarlet, so I'm definitely not going to make so much definitive points. But I think that she's really... I definitely think that she is really strong in certain areas. But one of the areas that I think always makes her good is the tongue. And she loses tongue in Hemorrhage, which I think is a big deal. She gets Boiling Point, Crimson Shield, and Red Mist. Red Mist is good. It's a really good restand. It does decent damage, especially if you get him in the corner. But it's kind of different. What is the huge announcement? Well, you have to wait until 5 to find out, won't you? Yeah, so you still get to play Scarlet. You get a lot of damage. You get a really good restand and pressure using Red Mist, but losing the tongue is a big deal for Scarlet. So absolutely alters. I would kind of be inclined to put her in between here maybe, but she's definitely on the lower end of this. But I will say let's keep her in alters. But yeah, seeing double Noob Saibot. I am gonna put on really like, so this isn't like ordered left to right, so this isn't gonna be like my normal list, but he is on the absolute higher, at the very least higher end of improves. S, you guys think? I mean, okay.
All we can
so
say is,
what puts me
game,
maybe not
true
wanting to
gamer.
put this variation overall in S is he doesn't get the like a big launcher, but he does in the corner. So it's kind of, I mean, I would say like at the very least right at the top of this, teetering on the edge of optimizes, but I'm not, I definitely don't know about that, because he has the best neutral of Noob Saibot, but he doesn't get just a straight up hit confirm damage mid screen. In the corner he gets a lot. It's definitely his best variation. But if we're looking at tournaments, like straight up tournament variations, he does lack like the launching potential that you get from the other two, but he does in the corner, but it's a universal launcher, but he can still do big damage with it due to the slide. And he does okay, so this is going to be a bit up in the air then. It's going to be either at the top of improves or it's going to be up here kind of. But again, we're not talking about customs here, guys. Like I know you can make a variation with the slide and launches, but we're talking about, this is tournament variations we're talking about. We're talking about tournament variations. But seeing double is the one thing it lacks in a big launcher. It does make up for in every other way. It makes all of his buttons safe. His 9-frame mid becomes completely safe. He can play around the Crushing Blow clone better than any other variation by far. He gets big damage. Again, you look at Unbreakable. The slide is a really, really, really good variation over. There's a really good special move, projectile, whatever you want to call it. Really solid. I mean, like, I would talk about the Ghost Ball, but it's not really a reason you pick it. Seeing double is pretty much used for the low slide. You know, it gets, and it also gets the ability to teleport in the air. You know, I also want to double check, but he also gets the ability to teleport in the air. So you get a reaction game, but the big thing is the low slide. The low slide is really strong. Oh, but is it here or is it in optimizers? Because he only misses launches mid-screen. I'll tell you what, I'll put him up here, but like as kind of the lower end of things. But I feel like with the meta of the game and how it's played, this is absolutely the best variation of Noob Saibot. Like, if it is undeniably the best Noob Saibot variation, I think it has to go up here. Like, I'll put it on the lower end of up here, I guess, but I mean, it's still up here because it is definitely the best way of playing Noob Saibot in the tournament variations. So I tell you what, we will put it up here. I think if we can put the spins up here, we can put Seeing Double up here. So it's going to go up here. Spare Change Collector is absolutely an improvement. This is an improvement of Collector across the board. You are looking at really good full screen presence. You're looking at incredible, you know, finishing off matches territory. Where, as my game frozen, I think my game is paused. I actually think my game has crashed. Okay, no, it hasn't. Collector. Right. Okay, spare change. So you're literally looking at just this. This is just projectile city, right? You're looking at air projectile. You're looking at ground projectile. But you're looking at dot damage. You're looking at stacking damage, and you're looking at the ability to just straight up. You can end combos in it for crazy pressure, for like, well, as I say, pressure is in like putting pressure on the opponent, right? Like they're worried, they're sitting in fire. This blows through last breath. This finishes off matches incredibly well. Spare Changed absolutely just improves Collector overall. This is a really strong version of the character. It gives him really good damage. It gives him really good neutral control and full screen presence. It gives him good Oki as well. It's just a really solid version of Collector. And I don't think we really need to go into that much more detail than that. I feel like I'm going into a little bit too much detail here in some of these characters, so I might go into a little bit less. Yas, Queen, Cassie. I definitely think this is I'd say this is an improvement, absolutely, because it adds a stun, so you get combo potential she doesn't normally have, and you get shoulder. So I would absolutely say this is an improvement. Yas, Queen, Cassie, she gets the shoulder with the crushing blow. It's one of the only moves in the game that has the block late crushing blow requirement, and you will actually see it, because the benefit of the shoulder is it really, from absolute max range, the shoulder is safe, and the shoulder goes further than all of her mids. So where you're normally used to blocking mid-distance buttons, and you're kind of like blocking, unblocking, as she kind of dances in between the range of her like back two and some of her longer range buttons. The shoulder, outside of those ranges, completely fucks with you. Because where you're normally used to looking for those long-range buttons, shoulder comes out, you might just have tapped block waiting for a mid, you get hit by it, crushing blow comes out, and, you know, it's more likely to hit. Yeah, Kano has the crushing blow requirement as well. His does hit, but nowhere near as often as the shoulder does. when you see that anyway. But it still hits enough. But the good thing about Kano is that it's safe, right? And hers at max range can be safe too. Yasqueen gives her unbreakable potential because obviously it's a stun, it doesn't launch, so you can stay on the ground. It's just an improvement of Cassie overall. Loud and clear, Sindel. Not really sure what to make of this. I feel like all three of her variations could absolutely be thrown into A+, but I feel like this is more of an alteration because it doesn't add as much as the other variations, and what it does give is very meter intensive. Obviously the damage took a big hit at the jump kick scaling. It changes. It kind of changes the scream a little bit. And it's incredible. Again, the big thing, it's very meter intensive. Its projectile doesn't go full screen, so it doesn't quite have the same full screen presence. It does get a good jumping game with the ability to fake out, and it does get good combo damage. But it's, again, very meter intensive, and if you're looking for a combo variation, you could kind of just pick splitting hairs and do a bit more. But the big thing for Loud and Clear is unbreakable damage. Its unbreakable damage is absolutely unchallenged for the most part. But it is, yeah, you guys are right. It's a completely different version of playing Sindel. Sindel is fundamentally a really strong character. All the good things about Sindel universally, Loud and Clear gets to use. But what this gives doesn't really give it as much in the grand scheme of things, especially in comparison to the other two, which is a big deal. So I'm going to put Loud and Clear over here in alters. First round KO, I mean, doesn't need to be said. Absolutely just improves Jackie to the absolute degree. Clinch takes what's good about her. It gives her more damage. It gives her an incredible crushing blow. It gives her a credible crushing blow. Yes, the throw tech countering has fallen off somewhat. The feints and the cancels, they've also fallen off a little bit. But even Clinch by itself, like, you could literally pick this variation just for Clinch, and you've got a massively improved version of Jackie. Like, she is, because she is so universally well-tuned, even the slightest improvement will make her a lot better. And first round is a great example of that. The Clinch by itself is the reason I'm pretty much putting her up here, and it's all she needs. The Clinch makes her a lot better because of it increases her damage, it gives her an incredible crushing blow, it gives her side switch potential, it gives her an amazing ender for Oki if you want to go for the elbow point blank. It's just really strong. It just absolutely makes her better than usual, and she is going up here. Grin and Barrett. I kind of want to put Grin and Barrett on the lower end of alters, because it's definitely not bad, because it lets you turn one of the better 9-frame mids in the game into a full launcher. It is the version of Jax that plays around launchers. You have two of them with, the down back 4 and the stance. But the problem is, alters because you lose the dash punch. The reason, the biggest problem Grin and Barrett has is you lose the dash punch. Like having Jax without the universal back forward 2 just seems to be a net downgrade, especially when this variation has a down back 4 launcher by itself anyway. Like, you get slightly more damage off of the duck and weave stance, but a bit more damage when you have another launcher you could go to instead of keeping arguably his strongest universal move and back forward 2 is definitely not a great trade-off. So it completely changes. Like Grin and Barrett Jax is completely different to any of the others, and it is still probably the weakest of the three by default. It's definitely not trash. Like, you can play it, you can win games, you can play him around the launchers. It gives like Grin and Barrett gives him a lot of heat because you're juggling with punches, down 1-2 being used as juggles constantly gives him heat, so you get access to a lot of missiles, which is good. You can use the missile ender really well, but losing that back forward 2 really does hurt the variation overall. So I'm going to put him into alters. Definitely on the lower end of things, but it definitely helps him to a degree, because just giving him a launcher is just not a bad thing in any degree. Giving him the launcher, big plus. Losing back forward 2, big down. So it kind of goes hand in hand. Ragin Raiden. I kind of really feel like out of all the tournament variations, this is definitely the best version of Raiden. I feel like this has the potential to be an optimized variation, but Raiden is so universally worse than these characters, I don't know. I think this is probably going to be the biggest kind of, like... Okay, so I look at Raiden universally. And I look at all of his problems. And I really think that Raiden plugs them all. The problem is, Raiden is... It's still Raiden. You know what I mean? So he still has certain issues. He's either right at the top of this, or he's at the arse end of this. Oh, it's hard. This is difficult. This is difficult. Because it's either because it really does help out. It really does help Raiden. Because think about it. It makes all of his buttons safe. It makes all of his buttons safe for the most part. Like every button you could want to make safe, Raiden makes it safe. It gets a launcher, which works off of all of the best possible buttons. He keeps Superman. He keeps incredible... well, maybe not incredible, but he keeps good projectiles. He has a good keep away game. And he gets one of the best moves in the game in the Discharge. Discharge is a fucked up attack. Cannot stress enough, you know? Even if this variation just had the Discharge move, it would be A+. Discharge is absolutely crazy. But no, we're not rating the individual characters here, guys, and I want you to remember, I am gonna put this variation up here because it absolutely helps Raiden in every way he needs help. The only thing that hurts him is the fact that it's still Raiden. Like, it's still universally Raiden. And the problem is, it's still, again, that's the point. It's still Raiden, so he fundamentally still has a lot of issues. But a considerable amount of those issues are made bearable, and in some cases, you know, definitely not a problem anymore because of what Raiden gives him. Raiden is an optimized variation for Raiden. Raiden is not an S-tier character in my opinion. He is not a top-tier character, but this variation absolutely helps him in the most ways possible. This variation is a very good variation. But this is the only time you might see this. So... but even then, do I put it up here? Because I know that Raiden is not a great character. But I look at what this... I'll tell you what. For the sake of diplomacy, I will put him right at the top of this. For the sake of diplomacy, he will go here. I would be inclined to put him up here, but for diplomacy, I will put him here. Because it's not a tier list. Remember, this isn't a straight up tier list. Shaman. Ooh, this is weird. A+? I don't know about that. This is definitely alters, in my opinion. This is definitely going here. This is definitely not like these characters. For what it does for them. Shaman is not bad by any means, but it does not launch from the best buttons. It does not give as much damage across the board. Losing the Rhino Charge is a big downgrade. Losing Rhino Charge, we're literally talking about Jax losing back forward 2 levels of stuff. So losing Rhino Charge definitely hurts, and he doesn't get as much damage. So you can still play. This is still an effective variation, but it forces you to play for unoptimal combos, comparatively speaking. And losing the Rhino Charge gives you... I mean, if you want to go for an ender with this, you end in strings, which aren't as good as the charge, or you end in lightning bolt arrow, which does not do as much damage. So you kind of have to... You have to accept a lot of... compromises with Shaman. So Shaman definitely alters. It's definitely not bad for the character, but it definitely alters him a lot. And not necessarily in all the good ways, but it's definitely not bad. So Shaman is altering characters. Thunderwave. Ooh. I definitely want to say it improves. Like and this is my main problem. This is my main problem. Thunderwave is not in the same tier as Raiden. Raiden is definitely better than Thunderwave, in my opinion. It's definitely better. But it definitely improves Raiden. Again, like, this definitely improves Raiden, but it's definitely not the same as Raiden. As Raiden. Which is why I kind of wanted to put Raiden up here. But I feel like Raiden almost isn't here. You know what I mean? I tell you what, For now, I will put Ragin, because this isn't ordered as such, but, like, it isn't like, this is better than this, and that's better than this, but I definitely want to put, like, top of it and the bottom of it. Maybe not, like, don't look too specifically into it, but I tell you what, I tell you what, yeah. Because I don't want to put Thunderwave lower than this, and Ragin does help. I'm going to put Ragin, again, at the arse end of this, and we'll see how it's looking as we go through. For now, I'm going to put Ragin up here, and I'm going to keep Thunderwave here. Because I definitely think that Thunderwave improves Raiden. But obviously, he loses... He has the teleport, which is really good. He has a good damaging combo option that is great for conversions, and it's great for standing buttons. Obviously, it's death on block, but, you know, it's... that's a launcher, right? They're not all safe. So I'll leave this like this. I'll leave this the way it is, because Thunderwave definitely helps. Destroyer. Ooh, Destroyer. I think Destroyer is probably... I think this is... I would say this definitely improves. I would definitely say this arguably improves, because it gives him... I mean, he doesn't lose anything, right? We don't see it very much at all, because Dark Fate kind of dwarfs everything, but Destroyer is really... It really helps. It really helps the mix-up department, it helps the mobility, it does give him a launcher, and just because I haven't seen Destroy in a while, I just want to make sure I've got the right moves. I'm sure it gives him the air grab, it gives him the lunge. I'm just making sure. Yeah, he gets the infiltrator toss, so he gets the launcher, he gets the lunge, and he gets the low. Yeah, so he gets an overhead, a low, and a launcher. He doesn't lose any of universal moves for it. It just adds to his mix-up game, and it gives him more damage. So, by all intents and purposes, this just does nothing but improves Terminator. So here he is. Wuxi Legend. Ooh, Wuxi Legend. Ooh. I think this has got to be A+, right? Wuxi Legend has got to be A+. Because we don't see it as much, but it's really good. It is really good. You think A? Maybe. And what's going on? Teleport beats Ragin. Oh, that's another topic. That's another discussion entirely. I feel like, but I feel like this doesn't alter Liu Kang. I feel like this just gives you more options. Like, you still get to play around the Fireball game. You still keep all of his good normals. No, I definitely think Wuxi Legend is an A+ variation. 100%. It just improves Liu Kang. He doesn't lose anything of... He just doesn't... The only thing he doesn't get is the low Fireball from Lohan. But he still gets... He gets a scary full-screen presence. He gets to buff his Fireballs, which is huge, because his Universal Fireball is still good. And he just keeps everything that's good about Liu, with the exception of low Fireball. This is definitely A+. This definitely just improves Liu Kang in a way that makes sense. Untamable Jade. I want to put this in alters, because I definitely don't think it's bad. I know that Jade players are very torn about Untamable. Some of them like it, some of them don't. But the big thing about Untamable is you lose the glow. Losing the glow in Untamable is a big thing for Jade, because arguably the glow is her strongest special move. Untamable gives her a reflect. It gives her a low. Well, technically it's a teleport, but it can be a strike, and she gets the improved strings. So losing the glow is a big deal. But the other moves you get are useful. Like, the low is cheeky, the low is decent. The extended strings give her quite tidy unbreakable damage, and they give her a lot of hit confirming potential. I believe you can make them safe. I don't know for sure. Again, I don't know as much about Untamable, so I don't want to make so many, like, you know, guaranteed statements. But I do think that Untamable is forced to play without projectiles means that she gets outzoned by more characters than would normally not. Because it's a good reflect, like, it has, like, hella quick startup, but it's not just being invincible to them, right? It forces you to play a different style of neutral with Jade. And it's definitely not something we see as often, so I'm definitely going to be putting Untamable here until we see otherwise. But yeah, she does decent damage. Madman. Oh, we talked about Madman before. It gives you good damage, but having to play Joker without the crowbar does change him quite a lot. He's not bad by any means. Like, don't look at these variations and take them to be, these are all as good as each other. Remember, we're looking at these variations to what they do for the character. We're not looking at what are the best variations in the game. It's what do these variations do for the character? Do they make sense? Do they help it? Do they hurt it? Do they change it? Are they worth it at all, right? We're not looking at these are the best variations in the game. It's what do they do for the characters, right? That doesn't mean that every character's best variation is going up here, because some characters' best variations still have problems, you know? It's going to be a character-by-character basis. Bone Picker. I definitely think it's safe to say that Bone Picker just improves Baraka. Bone Picker has one of the absolute best anti-airs in the game, bar none, with the spines. You cannot leave the ground against this character, and he can juggle from it with the command grab almost anywhere. It's ridiculous. He gets some of the best hit grabs because of the range on them. He can OS with his... Because this is a high command grab, but it's probably the longest range high command grab in the game, because the piece of shit just jumps at you. He just lunges at you from half screen. Goes hand in hand with some of his longer range buttons, so it really keeps you on your toes. Gives you corner launchers. It's an improvement on Universal Baraka, 100%. High command grabs, yes, it's dangerous, and he is prone to taking a lot of damage. Mid-screen, his damage isn't that much to write home about, but corner, he gives you launchers. He gets a great, whiff punishing potential. And what's universally good about Baraka? Good buttons, good projectile, oppressive jumping attacks, good advancing buttons. Like, it's all still there, it's still good. So Bone Picker absolutely just makes it better. Back in the pack, I'd say Back in the Pack and Spare Change are quite similar to each other in terms of what they do for Collector. It just gives him a command grab, which goes hand in hand with a couple of his other buttons. Teleport is so-so, but it's definitely not, terrible by any means. It's just a good version of Collector. It just takes Collector and makes him a bit better. Collector universally isn't incredible, but he's definitely not bad, and this just gives him a few more tools. He gets the up mace is kind of useless. You really pick this for the command grab and the teleport, mainly the grab, but the grab is good. The grab gives him mix-ups. The grab beating rolls is really good because it gives him massive damage. And teleport is just good for constantly just making yourself just a bit of a pain in the ass, right? It just improves Collector, and Collector universally isn't that bad. So yeah, definitely not bad by any means. So Back in the Pack is going to be going into A+. And we've also seen this work as well. Both Spare Change and the Back in the Pack have also worked in pro competition games as well. So definitely not bad. Liu Kang is... I almost want to put this in S, because it's just so good. It's so good. This is such a good version of Liu Kang. It really is, because low fireball is incredible.
All we can say is, if you don't play this game,
it's mainly about the low fireball for the most part, but the stance, whilst has received nerfs over the patches, is definitely still not terrible. I'm just, again, making sure I've got the right moves. Right, so Shaolin stance, parry, and low fireball. It was the parry that I, for some reason, just brain fired on. The parry is probably the best parry in the game. I would say that it hasn't really got any competition there. It's a launching parry with an incredible crushing blow attached to it. The low fireball is one of the best projectiles in the game. And the stance is still good for general fuckery, right? Like, it's not... The stance isn't as good as it used to be, but it's definitely not bad. It still can be used to just keep your offense crispy. And generally a bit of a pain in the ass. The parry is the best parry in the game, and the low fireball is just simply incredible. And Liu Kang fundamentally is really good. And especially the parry and especially the low fireball together, they both go hand in hand really well with what's universally good about Liu Kang. Straight fireball and low fireball. Fly kick, whiff punish. Amazing buttons. Amazing throw game. Good strike throw and a good parry, right? Like, he gets so much more layers on top of it. And Lohan is definitely, I think, as close as you'll get to an optimized tournament variation for Liu Kang. Absolutely. Ancestral Gift Nightwolf. I definitely I feel like it's not amazing. I feel like this is probably... I'll tell you what, I'm gonna put it here. I'm gonna put it in alters, because this is the only variation of Nightwolf that plays around constant tick grabs. Because I definitely don't want to put it down here. Because it's definitely not It definitely hasn't got, like, when I see down here, I just see doesn't have any point, right? Like, there just isn't a point to it at all. And if you want to play Nightwolf as a grappler, you can play Ancestral Gift, right? You can do it. Because he has got good crushing blows. He has got a counter hit crushing blow, which really helps. The command grab does have a lot of ticks that work. It's just, you know, up and down. It's a high command grab. But it's a command grab with some of the highest amount of, like, plus frames in the game. It does give him a teleport, but it's the lowest damage of the three, and inherently high command grab characters take risks, especially if the grab isn't super long range, like someone like Bone Picker, right? Or someone like Kano that has amazing launching option as well alongside it. So it definitely it isn't completely useless. Like, you can play it to effect, you know, Rhino Charge. He can still keep them standing a lot with arrows. Rhino Charge can be good for you know, Rhino Charge having a lot of, like, advantage on knockdown means that you can set up for meaty grabs and stuff. So it's definitely kind of teetering on the edge of B and A here, but I definitely think it still has a place, like, as a variation. So I'm going to be putting it in alters for sure. Maybe on the lower side of things, but it definitely is going to be going in here. Hat Tricks Kung Lao definitely improves. Definitely improves Kung Lao. Hat Tricks gives an incredible projectile. It plays around just the straight up, like, you know, a visceral game of strike throw in a really scary way. The cancel games gives him even more elements to that because you know, cancel into forward 4, cancel into throw. We have seen this work a lot through the year. It's very live and die by the sword. Like Hat Tricks, it does a lot of damage. It really forces you into that unfavorable situation of strike throw. But at the same time, whenever you go for a throw, obviously you're putting yourself at a lot of risk. But, you know, you still do decent damage. You still keep yourself safe with everything but throws for the most part. Even the Z-Hat as a projectile is good. And it's Z-Hat and Guided Hat. That's the big, like, low-key Hat Tricks getting the Guided Hat is one of the stronger things about it, because Guided Hat lets Kung Lao play a full screen game with actual normal projectiles as well. Because even making it lower at the last minute, it's a mid projectile. Guided Hat has always and always will be a mid projectile, and it does decent damage for sure.
Would you say Sindel splitting hairs is good for noobs since she can punish projectiles easy? Her combos are easy and decent mid-range, loud and clear, harder to combo, and for more advanced players.
Thank you for the bits, D-Mob. I really appreciate it, dude. We will get to loud. We will get to splitting hairs. I will answer that question when we get to splitting hairs, because I don't want to kind of go off on a tangent and lose my train of thought. But we will get there. We will definitely get there. 52 card Eren. I definitely want to. So this is an example of, I want to put this into A+. Because 52 card is very good. It's a very good Eren. But it doesn't fix all the problems. Eren is still very much prone to people jumping away from him, people you know, effectively breaking away and killing him for it. And he doesn't have a way to stop that from happening, really. Unless he just makes a really hard read on Scud Shot or cuts his damage really bad, right? It optimizes the character, though. I kind of don't feel like it does, because when I think optimizes character, I think pretty much gives him everything, and 52 card doesn't do that, because he still has those fundamental problems. It doesn't fix all of the issues. It helps a lot of them, but not all of them. If they break away, you can set up acid. I mean, yeah, but you still have to read that, right? It's still something you have to... It's still a problem he has to play around. And if you've got acid already out on the floor, you can't stop that. So you are going to die. Optimize the best way to play him. I mean, it's between this and Barking Irons. Because Barking Irons is also good. I mean, you guys... I mean, you make a good argument. But I'm not sure. I look at what it does for him... You know what? Maybe. At the very least on the lower end of things. Because, okay, so we might have we actually might have another Raiden thing here where I'm gonna put Barking Irons up here, and it's definitely not as good as 52 card in the grand scheme of things. So I think for that reason alone, and the fact that we see 52 card more than anything else, with the exception of certain matchups where 52 card doesn't work. Okay, I'll tell you what, yeah, we're going to put this up here on the lower end of things, because I definitely think that makes the most sense. Ratbag Kano. Ratbag Kano. I am putting this in alters, because Ratbag, it gives you... It improves the character in the sense that you can confirm into more with, obviously, you get to snake bite off of all of your buttons. Your forward one lets you snake bite. Your fast high gives you snake bite. It gives you good damage. It gives you good conversions. But I say this as someone that has played Ratbag extensively, I would rather play Ratbag with the universal knife toss than the eye laser. Because Knife Toss is better than Eye Laser. Eye Laser is a mid, it does do decent damage, and it does have a good crushing blow, but it is way slower on startup, it is way slower on recovery, and is pretty much death at mid-screen or closer. And at those ranges, you can use Knife and Amplified Knife to effectively keep people on their toes. Ratbag has absolutely nothing to deter people from ducking forward one, which is Ratbag's best string. Snakebite can absolutely die to breakaway, so you are very at risk of dying to breakaway in Ratbag, and you lose the projectile. It is still effective in a lot of matchups, though, because against characters that have to hold forward one, Ratbag gets considerably better. And obviously, it's damage that you can't turn your nose up at. It's good damage overall. And it gives you... And Snakebite is also a good ender, because it gives you a lot of advantage, which for a character like Ratbag gives you the strike throw game of forward one or throw. Obviously, he's got crushing blows, he's got good throws. But it definitely doesn't let you play normal Kano, not traditional Kano as you'd see. So I'm going to put Ratbag into alters, because it's definitely not terrible, but, you know, it definitely isn't... It doesn't let you play normal Kano, and he does gain some more weaknesses while making up for others in this one. So it's definitely good and bad. Matoka Warrior is... I might just throw this into S, you know. In comparison to the 3, I just think... I mean, he loses nothing. It just makes everything about him better. I really do think Matoka Warrior is going up here, because it gives you a launcher, one of the better launchers, because it gives you conversions, it gives you hit confirms, it gives you... I mean, you get Spirit of Kiba, which doesn't take anything away, and if you want to use it, it does give you a buff. But it doesn't take anything away, and the way that Nightwolf has developed, this is the best way of playing... This is just the best way of playing Nightwolf. And even looking through customs and people exploring right now, Rising Tomahawk is just something that people just don't want to trade up. Like, it is just the best way of playing Nightwolf. And the downsides that you get to Shaman, the downsides you get to Ancestral Gift, I mean, Matoka Warrior just doesn't have to worry about those at all. It really is just the best way of playing Nightwolf, for sure. And for that reason, I'm throwing it into Optim. Because this is definitely the optimized way of playing Nightwolf in tournament variations. Digital Soldier. I'm going to put this in an improvement. This improves Cassie. I'm going to put it right next to Yas Queen, because I kind of feel like these are just as good as each other for the most part. They both do similar things, just in slightly different ways. Digital Soldier, you pretty much pick it for... kneecapping. And it's another one of those variations that you will pick for a one-slot move. But it's worth it, because... I'm just making sure she gets the flip out, she gets kneecapping, and she gets the air gunshots too. So air gunshots are good, but kneecapping is the main reason you'll pick this, right? It's very strong. She still doesn't have a way to make her auto shimmy safe. She doesn't have corner combos, but she gets real full screen presence. She gets... I'm going to put this back quickly, because this soundtrack is getting weird. Yeah, that'll do. It doesn't fix all of her problems, but it does a lot for her, and really it improves her. You know, it doesn't do everything for her, and Yas Queen is still definitely worth picking up as well. But you know, they're both very strong. They're both absolutely A+ variations for sure, in my opinion. Creepy Crawler. I am gonna put this in alters, because Creepy Crawler can work. It's a very snowball variation, but Devorah without the ovipositors is very different, and definitely not always for the best. Creepy Crawler is... It has setup potential with the Bombardier bug. It has the air dash, which it can work for a very different kind of Devorah, but it's not a kind of Devorah that is as universally effective. Playing Devorah without Ovipositors means that she loses pretty much her best mid. Ovipositors, for the most part, are pretty much her best mid. The counter poke, harassing, which lets her play around not having a great mid a lot more. You don't get that. The crushing blow you get from Creepy Crawler is kind of low damage. Like, it's effective, because if you end a combo in the overhead, and then it opens up the next hit can be the raw overhead or maybe the low. It lets you do low off the back 3 or low overhead. It's a constant harassing, high risk, low reward variation of Devorah. But it's very annoying. It's very irritating because she does have true 50-50s. But it completely alters how you play. But if you want to play around 50-50s all game, you can do that with Creepy Crawler. It's a very altered, not quite as effective way of playing her, but you can if you want. Yeah, I mean, I would put it teetering between alters and doesn't help, but I feel like it still has a playstyle that can work if you are a bit of a if you're a bit of a brave guy and can do it. How many have we got left to get through? Damn, we have quite a few, so I'm gonna have to speed this up because we have a. If I have to push the announcement back a little bit, you know, it's not so bad. We can always push it back because it's just going to be we're just going to be making the announcement. We're just making the announcement, so I can push that back a little bit if needed, but I don't want to push it back too far. Totemic. Totemic is weird. I almost want to put Totemic down here. Because Totemic definitely isn't terrible, and like I have seen a couple of Totemic players around that really believe in the character, they really like the variation, they like the cats, they like the counter zoning. Because the big thing about this is, it used to be the one that can deal with projectiles, but now you have Bullock for that. However, you know, the cats are still good they do a lot of damage, they're good for just shutting down projectiles. Blood Totem is situationally okay. Blood Totem by itself as the only totem in a loadout is kind of ass, so it's kind of not great. It's definitely another one that I actually almost would want to put it down here. Because the thing, in fact, I am going to put Totemic down here. Because I look at what these are here for, and look at it. Totemic gets Blood Totem for healing. You really don't see that happen too much, really, at all. You look at the cat. The cats are anti-fireball, anti-projectiles. You can pick Bullock and be better at dealing with projectiles and pretty much every way better than the cats. And that's it. This is cats and Blood Totem. I feel like Blood Totem by itself is really hard to actually do anything with. And the cats are worse at dealing with projectiles than Bullock. It doesn't take anything away, but it has no point. It just doesn't do anything. Like, it's a bit better than base Kotal, I'll give you that. But we're talking tournament variations, right? It just doesn't have a point. In my opinion, it doesn't really have a point. You know? I just don't see why you'd pick Totemic at all. What it's made to do is, it heals with Blood Totem, and you don't see that actually pay off as much. Because if you could put up 3 Blood Totems, get to 9 seconds, get hit by a down 1, the totems tick over, and because you didn't do the last hit, you don't get any health back. And the cats aren't as reliable in the long game at dealing with projectiles as Bullock's just putting up a brick wall are, in my opinion. But this is all my opinion as well. I'm not saying this is guaranteed. And yeah, cats are punishable too, for the most part. Like, you can make them safe. Well, no, they're -8, right? So -8 is punishable now, unless they have the pushback. I haven't seen it in a while. But yeah, Totemic is definitely going here. Squander? No hesitation. Squander is a worse version of Collector. Because it is as fast as Bowler, but it can't be cancelled. And like the lantern blast you get with it is not real. There is an interruptible gap every time, and he can do nothing about it. You get an unsafe move that does less damage than his universal launcher, and is always unsafe on block no matter what happens. And the bowler does more impact damage and still combos from trades, but it can't be cancelled and doesn't combo off of more things because it has the same startup. It is a bowler that does a bit more damage in the combos, but you can't cancel it. So you die to breakaway, you can't cancel it, and it doesn't combo off of more than bowler combos from because they slowed it down when they added it into competitive. It literally does nothing but hurt Collector. It absolutely has... it just doesn't do anything. It just doesn't do anything for Collector at all. And yeah, we're going here. You lose projectile parry too. There you go. It expands. Does Squander gain a crushing blow? If it does, it's not enough. It really isn't enough. Splitting hairs. And by the way, I think Squander is the worst variation in the game. I think this is the worst it gets. I think this is absolutely the worst variation in the game. Splitting hairs, A+. Definitely an A+ variation is Splitting hairs. Gives her a launcher, gives her conversions, lets her combo off forward 4 if she wants, gives her big damage. It's just good. It's just a solid version of Sindel. Everything, it makes all of her buttons confirmable into big damage. Her crushing blows do a bit more. It's just normal Sindel. Everything that's normally good about her with more damage. But it doesn't get a projectile, right? This is a projectile-less Sindel. So it suffers from full screen. It suffers from that long range. Against strong projectiles, it's kind of hard, right? Like, you kind of have to play catch-up a lot. But if you do get in, you can do a lot of damage. It adds damage. So it helps. It helps there a lot. So I'm definitely putting this in A+. Emerald Defender, I'm definitely putting this in A+ as well. It's a good version of Jade. I definitely think it's a solid version of Jade. It's the strongest full screen version. It has good keep away. The air glaive is still really good. It can be really irritating. It's just solid. It's just a solid version of Jade overall. Jade, fundamentally, you know, is not an incredible character. I've always kind of had her like middle of the pack. But this is a good version of her. And looking at what it does for her, I definitely think this is solid. But it does actually get outzoned against characters like Shang Tsung that have those like corpses, the moves that go through glow. Like Emerald Defender really plays on air glaive, like keeping herself in the air with the glaive, and absolute like straight up abuse of the glow. And there are characters that have moves that go straight through the glow, and in those matchups, those moves not only go through the glow, but they will hit her in the air as well, because she has to keep herself in the air while she's throwing her stuff. And she has a decent amount of those matchups that aren't really as good. And obviously, Emerald Defender kind of suffers from point blank, because she can't really plug gaps as much as others. Just, again, to make sure she gets... just to make sure I have the right idea. I know Emerald Defender is... Yeah, Upward Razor, Edenian Spark. So it's keep away, right? It's keep away and it's better keep away and it's better use of the glow. But there are some variations that she just can't play keep away against. And when you try and get close, Emerald Defender has a lot of the universal Jade problems at point blank that she doesn't have any answers for. So it gives her really good keep away, but nothing up close. And there are still characters that can outzone her in Emerald Defender. But it's, you know, against a lot of characters which have to deal with it, Emerald Defender can be very effective. Dirtbag is, again, I know a lot of people, especially those that played against like Sonic Fox Dirtbag, would say that this is probably an S tier variation. I'm gonna put it up here. I am gonna put it up here. I think it is very, very good, but it does lack traditional damage. And traditional damage is important in this game. It really is. I think it's really close to S, but lacking... It makes up for a lot of Kano's problems, but not having big traditional damage does make it kinda up and down. Where Acid is one of the best special moves for just really irritating your opponent. It can be punished in a lot of specific ways, but it can be character specific. It's quite hard to do in the heat at the moment. And you can always do things like double down one to deter people flawless blocking. If they get hit by the down one, you can just call it out and do down one, you know, on hit, and then turn it on hit into like 1-1. Dirtbag getting Vegemite. Like, Kano's 1-1 is actually low-key a true auto shimmy for the most part, and Dirtbag can do 1-1 Vegemite and confirm the auto shimmy, which is the only variation that can use it. It's the only variation that gets to confirm the auto shimmy, which is big for like 20%. Up ball adds a deceiving amount of damage to things. Molotov is kind of ass, but Acid by itself, like, this variation is pretty much just Acid and Vegemite. But that's enough. You know, those two moves by themselves are oppressive. It's hard to zone out. It's hard to deal with at point blank. It's very irritating. It's very annoying. It will constantly chip down at you, but it doesn't have a huge amount of traditional damage. But it does plug up a lot of problems Kano has. It just doesn't do anything for the big damage. But if you get those resets, if you get those, like, you know, kind of sweet spot carpet setups into Acid you can delete, but, you know, it's space dependent. Some characters have more answers out of it than others. Like, it's up and down, but it's very solid, and for that reason, I'm going to be putting it up here for sure. Thin Ice Sub-Zero. I feel like you kind of have to put this at A+. Because Thin Ice, it doesn't do everything for Sub, but I'll put it at, like, the lower end of things. Because Thin Ice definitely isn't bad. Like, Air Axe is a deceivingly good projectile. It keeps everything University Sub has. Like, you don't lose anything with Thin Ice. It just adds stuff to you. So it's like, it's pretty much Universal Sub with a handful of projectiles, right? But they aren't bad projectiles. Air Axe is the best one of the three of them by far. Like, the straight shot is kind of up and down. Like, you can use it every now and then, but you can't really rely on it. The Barrage is good for chip damage, but again, it's very unsafe on block, so you can't really use it too much. The only real move you'll use a lot with Thin Ice is the Air Axe. And if you are full screen, and the good thing about the shot is it doesn't like the straight shot. Doesn't that knock out that knocks down, right? That knocks down on hit. I'm pretty sure it knocks down on hit. Correct me if I'm wrong. I'm sure it does. Okay, it does. Yeah, and that's never a bad thing. If your projectile knocks down, it's definitely not bad. It's exactly that, Punisher. You don't lose anything, and the moves you get can still be used. So it's kind of like, you know, up and down. What next? We have Arctic Anarchy. I am putting that shit straight to S, because this is definitely just it's just a really good version. It's just a really good version of Frost is Arctic Anarchy. I don't know if I'd say that Frost is, again, this is another example of she is not a S tier character by herself, but this variation. So look at her problems, right? Flawless block gaps. Augur says no to that. Combos. Augur says not a problem. Conversions. Augur says not a problem. Her best enders, for the most part, are still going to be the spin, which she keeps. Air dive bomb makes her really annoying to deal with. It gives, and she's got good jump ins, so the air dive bomb makes her a bit more unpredictable when she gets into the air. You want to say what she lacks damage? She does not lack damage, dude. She does a bit less than Ice Machine, but she still does big damage. If she gets you in the corner, she's still taking away, like, 300 plus per touch. Like, mid-screen, she does a bit less, sure, but this is the trade-off. Ice Machine does more traditional damage when people are on the floor, because she does a standing string into a freeze, and that's it. Whereas but Ice Machine does less off of conversions, it does less off of anti-airs, but Arctic Anarchy does more. Like, across the board, Arctic Anarchy does more than Ice Machine. Ice Machine does more on standing confirms, but in every sense you will be able to convert combos, Arctic Anarchy is doing more. So, as across the board, Arctic Anarchy is doing a bit more. And the Augur is a great projectile. She has incredible corner pressure, just keeping you where you are for a long time. It's just, it's everything that's good about Frost is made better, and what the other variations do for her, she kind of still does a bit of, you know? So Arctic Anarchy is, in my opinion, definitely the best. Definitely the best. And it's safe on block if you amplify that. Yes, there's a flawless blockable gap, but no one's flawless blocking it. Like, it's just not as practical to do that. So it's safer, it still does damage, it has the best corner pressure of the three variations. It's just the best. It really is. And it has that air presence with the dive bomb. Soul Eater Shang. Ooh. I think this is a really good variation, but by definition, it alters the character, right? This is very good, but you can't, but it does alter. I don't know if I'd say it improves, because it's Shang without strong keep away. But it does, this is hard, because you can't zone it either. Because Smoke Parry is the best projectile anti-zoning move, in my opinion. It's the best projectile parry. I think it's as good as these, honestly. I would say it improves. Like, it alters, but in a way that improves, right? If you're picking Soul Eater, you keep the ability to combo from your auto shimmy. You can still OS jump kicks with Ermac lift. You get rain kick cancels. You cannot be zoned. You gain mix-ups with Reptile Slide that you don't normally get. It alters in a way that improves him. You know, I really think that Soul Eater is up here. I think Soul Eater improves Shang for sure, because it alters the game plan completely, but in a way that improves him. You know, whereas whether these improve the character is kind of, you know, debatable. Whereas I feel like you can't really deny that Soul Eater is really good. You could argue the same thing for Madman, I guess, but I feel like in the matchups that Shang can't rely on Corpse and Ground Eruption, you can absolutely go Soul Eater all the time and make those matchups a lot better. Whereas Madman, like, there is no instance where the crowbar is not useful with Joker. You know what I mean? No, it's Ryan in chat. It's Ryan in chat. I'm chatting to you guys. Spring cleaning, oh, that shit is optimized. Spring cleaning is pretty much the best way you can play Cetrion, really. You get higher damage launchers. The geyser is also a good keep away tool. The teleport is insane. I'll get you in. I don't want it to mean that we elaborate too much, because I'm definitely going on a bit longer with these descriptions than I thought I would, but it's worth it, because this is probably going to be the last list like this I do for quite some time. So I'll jump in the Discord. But I will continue this. Let me just get in. Oh dear. All right, I'm in. There we go. Hello.
Yo.
Okay. Okay. Chris, you in here? You know, Spoiled Cash. If you have a friend watching, you can at them and see if they are. It'll tell you. How many more left?
You get like 5 people being, hello, my name is Chris. I'm here.
Okay, I tell you what, guys. I think our announcement is probably going to be pushed back by about half an hour, because I think I'm going to be like half an hour over time. But all we're doing is announcing it, so, you know, it's not something that will need the full time. But yeah, spring cleaning, it's the best way of playing Cetrion. It really is. Like, you get full screen options, you get a bigger damage, you get a teleport that is still one of the best teleports in the game, absolutely, especially with how she plays. And we've seen it work time and time again. It's just an amazing way of playing Cetrion. Pitch Black. Where are we putting this?
Do I have time to crack my knuckles first?
This is either going in doesn't help or alters.
No. I would absolutely argue that Pitch Black makes Noob Saibot worse.
Fuck off.
Pitch Black?
No.
Oh,
no.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
No. How?
Okay.
How is it worse than Universal Noob?
Well, what would Universal Noob have? I can't remember his moves.
Do you only gain moves? Because Squander makes Universal Collector worse. Because it's worse than his...
Okay, alright, no. So look at it this way, right? Look at it this way.
It's B. It doesn't help him. It doesn't make him, it doesn't make him worse. It just doesn't help him.
To be fair, no. In my defense, I'm here a little bit late.
Oh, fuck off!
Wait.
This is why you wanted to join the Discord. You saw that Pitch Black was next.
No.
Get him out of here. Get him out of here.
You don't lose Spirit Ball, by the way. That's an ability you have to equip. If we were going by it in the context of the other variations, which is what I on face value thought we were doing, I would say makes worse, because it's worse than the other two in basically every way. However,
yeah, but so is Totemic. But Totemic only gives him stuff. It doesn't make base code worse.
No. In the context of what you're talking about, I will then agree it doesn't help. Here's the problems that Pitch Black has. Well, we'll go over the benefits first, right? We can look at the combos that Pitch Black has access to, and in the character's defense, the combos are, besides being a lot of fun to do, they are mechanically really good, because the main combo comes from 2-1-2, which is Noob Saibot's auto shimmy, and mid-screen, you can get really fat damage on it, especially thanks to the buff they gave to forward 2, which means that the 2-1-2 into forward 2 combo is much easier now. The sickle gives you access to a lot more damage, and you're looking at like 30% at least every single time. So the combos are really sick, and without question, he hits hard off basically every touch. That is why often people say Pitch Black is underrated, because this character hits like a truck. The weaknesses and what holds the character back is the stuff that you don't get. The biggest thing is back 3 becomes a normal that you cannot use, because there is nothing good you can use off back 3, and that's meant to be one of his most important normals. You can't do Spirit Ball, you can't do low slide. So that immediately losing back 3 completely is a major issue. Also, his movement is not particularly strong, and normally his lack of movement is worked around by his good projectile game. He doesn't have that in Pitch Black either. So you are very rarely in a position to do the stuff that Pitch Black does better than arguably the other two variations. On top of a bunch of other small little minute details like the clone toss not contributing towards crushing blow and all that stuff. Clone toss is a bit too slow.
Fundamentally, the only move that helps in the variation is sickle snag, and it's not enough to push the character into realms, because it does add a good amount of damage. Like forward 2-2 becomes something you can combo from, 2-1-2 becomes something you can combo from, but in the corner they can all combo for good damage, and he has nothing else mid-screen. It's a good version with mid-screen combos, but no projectile, and the other because the other projectiles just aren't worth it. The air dive kick is not good. The arcing clone toss just isn't good, and that's why it just doesn't do anything for him. So Pitch Black is definitely going down here.
Punisher, use your ears, mate. I already corrected myself and didn't realize the context of how this was built, and now I know. I say that it doesn't help.
Yeah, exactly. Done and done. Next gen, A+. Absolutely. Next gen is Universal Jackie with good projectiles. I really don't need to go into much more detail than that. Like, it is, again, Jackie is so good universally that the only thing she'd act as a projectile, this variation gives her one. And it's stuff that she can add dot damage, she can put stuff on the floor. It, again, goes through last breath. Like, it just helps her a lot. And doesn't she get the crushing blow throw in this variation? Because the dome gives her a throw crushing blow off the throw that gives her Oki as well. So yeah, it does. Cool, very good, very solid version of Jackie. Frostbite. I'm gonna put Frostbite in alters because I don't think it's bad really, but you have to play around the bomb and nothing else, because you lose the
head.
Yeah, you lose the mortar. Like, playing her without the mortar is really weird. You can't do anything for.
All we can say
it doesn't do anything for the floor spot gaps. The ice
gamer.
pick move is good for Oki because, like, if you hit the ice pick, that gives you enough knockdown to guarantee a bomb. But the bomb, again, like, it doesn't lead to crazy damage. It's more about just forcing a decision. It's not used for set play. It's about get a hit, guarantee a bomb, because, like, the spin and the pickaxe both guarantee a bomb. But it's not about set play. It's about forcing them into a situation, right? Do they jump? Do they roll because of it? Do they wake up attack because of it? Are you ready for these options? If you do hit them, knock them down, put another bomb on the floor. If they then block that bomb, maybe you can throw them onto it and get a freeze, hit them, bomb. Like, but it's very low damage, and when the bomb is out, you can't use your back one. So her best button by far, the back one, you can't use a lot of the time in Frostbite because the head is on the floor. So it's definitely something that alters. Like, it's effective against certain characters, much less so versus others, which is why I'm not putting it in the Soul Eater category of it alters in a really improved way. It just isn't like that. But, you know, it still has its place. But especially in comparison to the other two variations, it's just not worth it a lot of the time. Upgraded, that shit is still S tier. I don't care what anyone says. This variation is still absolutely bonkers. It takes Universal Jackie and it gives her the best movement in the game. It gives her some of the best pressure in the game. Still incredible unbreakable damage. Yes, the directed leaps cost defensive bar now, but you can still use the normal leap most of the time.
The only people that would say A+ are upgraded players.
Yeah, it is absolutely still one of the absolute best variations in the game, and it is absolutely still the best variation for Jackie. Unlucky for her, in the few variations, on the few matchups that maybe you don't want to leap, you could probably just pick first round, or you can pick next gen. Like, she is still, in my opinion, #1. I definitely think she is still one of the best, if not the best character in the game right now. Clown Prince. I'm going to put this in Improves character. I really think Clown Prince is a really solid version of Joker. You keep the crowbar, you keep all the moves, you gain access to a strong projectile, which gives you good unbreakable damage, it's good chip damage. Yes, they can get around it on reaction if they know it's coming, but it's just you take a character as fundamentally good as Joker and you just give it useful things. That's all there really is to it. Everything that's good about Joker universally, you still have, and you get moves that help it. Like, there's no two ways about it. It's just a good version of Joker, and it absolutely improves him. Arachnophobia, I am going to put in improves character. Arachnophobia Devorah takes Universal Devorah and lets her get bigger damage off of her best buttons. She can combo off of 2-1, which is really useful, which is like her, kind of one of her faster launching options. Gives her good damage, gives her option to amplify 2 launchers for even more. She gets the universal restand is improved by the throw crushing blow she gains access to, so her strike throw game can become really solid. Even hitting one of her universally ass projectiles will put a bug on them, which always has that threat, so her throw game gets improved. She gets more damage. She gets more damage off of her good anti-air crushing blows. She gets... It just gives her options, right? It gives her a bit more damage off of touches. It helps. And the teleport is a good reactionary tool for a lot of slower projectiles. It just helps her, right? It doesn't fix all of her problems by any stretch of the imagination, but it does make her better and is a solid pick for any Devorah fan. Infinite Warden, I think Infinite Warden at this point is an A+ variation. It's still very good. It's still very strong, but it has taken an undeniable hit with the patches. Obviously now there are more gaps where there weren't before. His combos have changed. He still does a ton of damage, more than the others. Like, you can still do more damage with Infinite Warden than the others, so you can still pick it for big combos. You can still end combos in Sand Trap or anything, right? You can still end it in whatever you want and still keep Oki. His strike throw game is still solid. Sand Trap is still one of the best full screen moves in the game, absolutely. It does like an uppercut's worth of damage, hits full screen, wins the trade with any projectile because he just goes into the floor, gives him Oki every time. There's just more counterplay to him now than before. But beforehand, it was very hard to play around it. Now you have more options, and Eternal is just a more consistent option a lot of the time. But Infinite Warden still has its place, and still does certain things for Garris that you can't get in the other variations. So I'm definitely
I would like to raise the conversation that just because Dragon was able to beat every upgraded at Final Combat, because Dragon is a top 3 Mortal Kombat player in the world, does not make upgraded any less dangerous.
Indeed, yeah. Like, so it's not it's not the fact that Dragon had to study for months to beat 7 different world-class upgraded players, some closer than others, some came down to like last hit, last round. You're ignoring the fact that there were 7 upgraded players that had stomped their way through worldwide events leading up to that point. Like, come on, bro. Like, just because upgraded didn't win first place doesn't mean that upgraded isn't a problem.
Yo, Jake, how long did it take MK9 Cyrax to win a major?
2.5 years.
Oh man, I guess Cyrax wasn't that good then.
I guess so. That's what people said. That's what people said.
People genuinely said that. Moving on. Next character.
Barking Irons. I think Barking Irons is definitely an improvement. I think it takes one of the bigger problems that Aaron has, and that's, again, gaps. He's still prone to a lot of gaps. Forward 3, forward 3-2 being one of them. Forward 3 now becomes a tick throw in Barking Irons. He gets a big damage ender. His command grab is really solid. You pretty much pick Barking Irons for the command grab, right? Like, it gives you good meterless damage. Like, yes, you lose the launching potential with 52 card, but the damage you make up for by doing you know, command grab helps. Yeah, the only way of getting acid on the screen being slide is definitely a downside for it. But it's definitely something you will see a lot. Like, you are gonna hit slide amps with Aaron Black no matter what, so you will get it. It just doesn't do as much as 52 card, right? 52 card just plugs so many problems, and Barking Iron still keeps some. But it does help him in certain ways, right? But that's the whole point. It improves him, but, you know, it's kind of up and down as to exactly how much. But it's definitely not bad by any means. Avalanche Sub-Zero. I feel like just by definition it has to go in A+, right? Because Avalanche... Because it just adds things that work. You get a safe special that, yes, you can flawless block it, but most characters aren't going to do that because their up 3 just isn't even... If it even reaches you, and even if it does, there's using half the bar for max range of it, which they can't get anything, so most people aren't even going to bother. Arctic Trap is definitely not an incredible move, but it can work. Like, if you get one on the screen, your opponent has to play around it. If you have the life lead, if it's trapping them in the corner, or if it's putting them in a place they don't want to be standing. Obviously, like, there are situations it can work. And yeah, it deals with wake up roll really well. If you knock someone down, you read a roll, you throw a trap. If they don't roll and the trap is there, the trap is there. And if they do roll, obviously the trap just kills them.
I would definitely like to raise the point as well that as of a lot more recently, we are starting to see some Sub-Zero players raise the question that perhaps Avalanche might be better than Dead of Winter. That's something that we're
really
obviously I've seen Sikander a bunch on Twitter mention it, and he's certainly not the only Sub-Zero I've seen say that. But it's definitely not a commonly agreed to opinion. So it seems to be a toss-up with the Sub-Zero players between Avalanche and Dead of Winter. But Dead of Winter we just see do more recently.
I think it completely depends on what you play, what you want. Because Sub-Zero is actually one of the more versatile characters. He has a very tidy overall kit, but you can play him in a lot of different ways, as we've seen over and over and over again. But Avalanche having the, overhead jailing into Creeping Ice is really useful. But the full back one string jailing into it, like Creeping Ice is a good move to just reset neutral, get that space back again, have that distance at a range that maybe you can add back to if they jump, or you can look for reactionary slide, because Avalanche also plays around slide crushing blow really well, like very, very well. It's just, it just adds to the character, right? It takes the character universally and it just adds to it and lets you use certain tools in a different way. Whereas Thin Ice gives you that projectile, like full screen, air axe kind of harassment presence. Avalanche just straight up lets you just get a lot more aggressive. And whilst low damaging, does let you just go towards Creeping Ice, so you can just keep people on their toes of just overhead Creeping Ice, safe low, throw out a string, Creeping Ice. If it's one that jails, obviously it keeps them there. And then trap if you find the moment. And obviously he's got the universal stun. He's got the universal slide reaction. I don't know. It just helps the character. There's just kind of no two ways about it. Risen Emperor. I am gonna put Risen Emperor in here because Risen Emperor, I think, is arguably the only good variation of Shao Kahn. But it does help him. It does fix some issues. It gives him more crushing blows. It gives him a really good ender that he can normally end in like air grab or whatever. But I mean, Annihilation is just his best ender he has access to. The Dark Priest buff gives him good damage onto throws if he has it there too. It just helps him, right? It doesn't really take anything away. It just gives him some more things that really help him overall. And it's definitely his best variation overall. Like, I definitely don't see anything being better than Risen Emperor. Still has, like, Shao Kahn has a lot of problems overall as a character. But this definitely does the best job at helping him out. Blood Drive. Okay, Blood Drive is... I kind of want to put it on the lower end of, like, almost like the Risen Emperor effect, right? Like the Heart Pierce. I feel like Heart Pierce and Blood Drive are a bit similar, because it gives her a restand, and it gives her the blood ball, right? It gives her the slow ball of the restand. I'm just double checking, just to make sure. So you get, yeah, it's the slow or fast ball and the blood drive. So it just adds things to her. It gives her a really good ender for the restand, which means she doesn't have to play around wake ups. It gives her better keep away. Whether it does much more for her than that, it's kind of up and down. Yeah, I know some people are a bit torn as to whether Heart Pierce or Blood Drive is better. Fundamentally, I know Scarlet has a lot of problems, but at least Blood Drive just adds things to the kit. It gives her a restand.
All we can say is,
from a range, right? It doesn't have to be point blank like Hemorrhage. She does keep tongue. She gets a really good projectile in the slow or fast blood ball, usually the slow one. But she doesn't get to play around the gaps the way that Heart Pierce gets to. She doesn't get the teleport for the mobility. But it does add stuff to her, so I definitely think she's still up here. Because it does make her a bit better, because it just adds to her. It doesn't make her a great character, but it does add to what she can do. Ascension. I honestly feel like Ascension might be S. Like, I would be inclined to put it in A+, but I genuinely think it might be S. Because Ascension it works against everyone. It gives incredible damage. It gives... Okay, if Mr. Aquaman is telling me to put it in S, I'm not gonna deny. Because it takes Kotal. The only bad thing about it is it gives Kotal the shit Sunray. The shit Sunray, and that's the thing, and that's what makes me a bit unsure, because can we say it's optimal if it gets the worst rate? That is what has me tossing around this, you know, because it's a lot worse than the usual Sunray, you know. I think Ascension and Bullock are about as good as each other because they are both super oppressive. They do different things, but I don't know if that's optimal. I mean, but that's true. The rate isn't why you pick it, because it does give him. It does give him. I don't know if I'd say Bullock is S. I'll tell you what. Mr. Aquaman says it's S. S it shall be. Ascension, it gives him ridiculous damage. One of the best, if not the best, command grab in the game. I would say it could be the best command grab. Because with the exception of the I'll be back breaker, but that's Dark Fate only. You still get a Sunray that goes through Last Breath and heals you, so it can still be used, just not as easily as the universal one. And you just get a launcher, you know. It's just good. It's just really, really, really good. It's 5 p.m. The announcement is definitely going to be pushed back by about half an hour. Sorry, guys. This is taking me longer than I thought, but I wanted to go into this depth. So we're going to push back the announcement just by about half an hour. But that's all we will need. I would definitely say that Ascension will be S, because it just makes everything that's good about Kotal better. More damage, can use better buttons, better conversions, has more access to damage buffs thanks to the command grab. It's just really good. It's just a really, really good variation of Kotal Khan, and arguably the optimal way of playing him. Subs OD, I'm actually going to put this in the lower end of alters. Like, it arguably doesn't help, but I have seen some players say they believe in this. It does get the shadow kick, which is it's a safe way of using the auto shimmy, so you can use 1-1-1 again with Subs OD. Obviously, it's a lot more about neutral control with kind of unorthodox projectiles that you can move while they're in the air. Shadow Kick is a good special move. It's very low damage, has to rely... It's the only variation that will consistently hit the Nutcracker crushing blow, because you kind of have to do Nutcracker for damage with this variation. But that's where it alters it, right? It's definitely not completely garbage, but it does not let you play anything close to the meta Cassie that we see from Digital Soldier and Yas Queen. It's definitely not bad, but it's a complete alteration, and not necessarily all for the best, because it's very low damage. You can use the auto shimmy again in a completely safe way, but again, for low damage. It's kind of up and down. I have fought some, good players of this variation, so it's definitely not terrible. Kick is unsafe, little to no pushback. Is it unsafe? I mean, it's not safe. I mean, no, it doesn't have the pushback to make it safe. I'm sure it does. I mean, if I'm wrong about that, I'm wrong, and that does change things. You can punish the auto shimmy? Wait, so you can actually punish Shadow Kick? I thought it was safe this whole time. Damn, well, if that's the case, then that's even the same. I mean, you can still play around it. It's just... it's kind of different. It's only safe if you do it from range, but you won't be doing it from range if it's. But if it counter hits at crushing blows, so I guess you just have to use it differently. I still think it goes here though. Like, she's definitely on the lower end of this. Like, teetering on doesn't help, but not quite. I don't think she's not completely useless. Ringer, I kind of want to put Ringer here as well, because I don't think Ringer is terrible, but like, losing Gotcha is a big deal. You get really good full screen game because the unblockable ground pound. It is the fastest unblockable in the game, so it does help you from a distance. It does give you more options, because if they're going to be sitting there, jumping around waiting for the ground pound, you can build heat. You get the enhanced string, so you get added utility of 2-2-1-1 heat missile. You get decent corner combos, but mid-screen your damage is very lacking. Like, you're kind of hoping for conversions at that point, but you can't convert into Gotcha, so you can't build heat that way. You build heat untraditionally, like different to normal. It just changes the character a lot. It's definitely not bad, but you don't really get to play around the universal strengths of Jax anywhere near as much with Ringer. Outside of the corner. In the corner, Ringer is like A+, but everywhere else it's A. And it spends most of the time everywhere else, because it doesn't have as much. And yeah, losing Gotcha grab is the big no-no. Searing Rage. I would say Searing Rage is just A+, honestly. I would argue that... Yeah, I'd put it at A+. I think Searing Rage will be A+ for the same reason that Thin Ice is for sub, you know? Like, everything it gets you can use. If you want to play him around big damage, big punishes, like, and just the absolute abuse of just forward 3, you can do that with Searing Rage. Like, you can't play around, like, playing around the teleport is a lot more dangerous. Your mobility takes a bit of a hit. But I think that Searing Rage is, it has such high damage. It gets a good throw game when you have the spear buff on. Its damage is absolutely crazy. It's definitely not S, no way, but it's, I definitely can say, in fact, now I'm gonna zoom out a little bit, because we're getting a bit, it's getting a bit big here. But I definitely think I'm gonna put Searing Rage here, A+, like, for sure. No holds.
I saw what's interesting is yesterday I saw I believe it was Mirko on Twitter say that he thinks that Searing Rage might even be better than Reborn.
I mean, Mirko definitely plays a lot of them both, so I can definitely see his reasoning, but...
Who's the other Scorpion that does a lot of Searing Rage? Gi Exceptional, right?
Yeah, Gi Exceptional in Latin America. Plays a ton of Searing Rage.
So the character has a whole bunch of good tournament coverage.
No holds barred Sonia. I feel like by definition, again, by almost the same kind of... By the same kind of logic has to go in A+, because you get extra parries, you get an extra jump normal. That is a good jump normal. It's not as good as it used to be thanks to the jump kick block advantage change, but it's still good. And you get a pop up in the air with the air grab. I definitely think that no holds barred is it's an improvement on Sonya overall. I think it is solid. I don't think it's as good as Ringmaster at all. But I do think it's good. Yeah, I think that's kind of it, really. It helps her out. It doesn't do anything for a full screen game, but it helps her up close. If you want to play point blank Sonya, this is the variation to play. But that way of Sonya isn't amazing because you don't get the kind of cancel potential in the corner of Ringmaster. But I definitely think it could go here. Warlock Shang Tsung, that shit is S tier. Variation-wise.
I need to quickly mention, because there are people in chat that I think don't understand the context of how the variations are being placed. It is in the context of like pure vanilla, variationless in effect.
No. It's kind of not that. So what this is about is we are looking at these variations. This is not a traditional tier list. We are looking at each tournament variation. We are looking at what it does for the character, competitively. Looking at how that variation works, how many counters it has, or how effective it is at just using that character competitively. So these are in relative, relation to the character that the variation belongs to. I'm not saying Infinite Warden is as good as Heart Pierce. I'm not saying that Digital Soldier is as good as like Risen Emperor. We're looking at what do these variations do for the characters they belong to, and that is why like pay attention to these words here. This is a character being optimized for the best way that they can be played. This is the character is improved by the variation. This is the variation alters how that character plays and not necessarily all for the best. This is the variation just doesn't help the character at all. And this is the variation actually makes the character worse. These are the words you should be looking at. This is not an overall tier list. I'm not saying that, that Raiden is an S tier character. You know what I mean? This is the way I would like you guys to look at these categories. These words right here. Just keep that in mind. That is how this is done. And Warlock is, I firmly believe, the optimal way of playing Shang Tsung. Warlock has some of the absolute best keep away in the game, bar none. Some of the best counter zoning. He trades favorably than most zoners in the game, most projectiles in the game. He has one of the best auto shimmies in 114. People keep saying it's not an auto shimmy. Yeah, all I see is people get hit by it, so I will believe it when I see it. One of the best strings, it is safe, it has no gap. He has access to incredible plus frames. He has a really good mid in back 3. Yes, it's stubby, but back 3 down 4 is a safe gapless check. Back 3 up 4 is a hit confirmable mid. He has good advancing buttons. He's just a really solid character. Really good.
I definitely think that having the numbers can provide a bit of a misconception in that regard.
What, you mean these?
Yeah, SA. I don't think SA and B in that. I don't actually think it's necessary, honestly. Here, I don't mean to mention it later, but
I mean it's too late now. I'm not changing it now. We're like an hour and a half into this at least, so I'm leaving it as is. But noted. But yeah, that's Warlock. 20 minutes and all these. All right, we'll get through these. We'll get through these because 20 minutes left. Ice Machine, I think, is A+. I think Ice Machine, it takes Frost universally. Her biggest problem, in my opinion, is the flawless block gaps. Doesn't do anything for that, but it gives her a standing stun, gives her good unbreakable damage, it gives her good KBs. The drill KB is really good. It gives her good improvements to the zoning thanks to the shield, and gives her just good damage, right? Access to unbreakable, access to big standing damage. She gets less damage from conversions and anti-airs though, so you kind of have to play around that. She still has the problems with the flawless block gaps, but you know, it makes what she's good at better, but it doesn't really plug up a number of other problems that she has. Which is why I've got Arctic Anarchy up here and Ice Machine here. They're both very good. I think Arctic Anarchy is just the best way of playing her, but I definitely think Ice Machine has a place for sure. Spellmaster Shang. Does this make him worse, or does it not help? Because I feel like its universal fireball isn't great. I feel like what move does the burst get rid of? What move does the burst overlap? It gets rid of something, right? Corpse drop. That shit makes him worse. I'm not gonna hear it. I'm not gonna hear it. He loses corpse drop. It ain't happening. It still zones and it loses corpse drop. That's enough. And it doesn't have and it doesn't have ground eruption. So yeah, it's going down here. I'm sorry. It definitely is going down here.
Throw it in the bin. Chuck it in the bin.
Lotus Fist Kung Lao. I actually feel like it's probably S. Because Lotus Fist is, it takes what Kung Lao is good at, and it does a bit of everything that Hat-Tricks does. It just doesn't have the guided hat, but it gets really good counter poke. It still gets really good strike throw thanks to orbiting hat, incredible damage, incredible unbreakable potential. The big thing is counter pokes. You take a character that has one of the best down threes in the game, and then you add the option to throw an orbiting hat on it. So it's even harder to play the counter poke game. It's confirmable, it's safe, the bar he spends on it comes back almost straight away. It just helps him. It just absolutely helps him. And it's insane. It really is a crazy variation overall. And we've seen it work. Lotus Fist is in all the tournaments, it constantly does well. And yeah, definitely an S tier variation. Shock Jock. I feel like Shock Jock... I feel like it's going to go down here, and do not take this to mean that I'm saying that Johnny Cage is B tier. Do not take that by any means, because this variation doesn't actually do anything for him. The parry isn't really that useful, because remember, when Johnny Cage was first being used early in the game's life, Johnny Cage players were winning tournaments without using any of his moves. They weren't using the brass knuckles, they weren't using the parry. And what else does he get? What else does Shock Jock get? God, it's been so long since I saw Shock Jock.
Imagine if Shock Jock just got pissed off. Imagine if he just got that move over one of the existing moves, and he would automatically...
Oh, he gets that crappy hook punch. Yeah, it just doesn't do anything for him. Like it adds moves, but they aren't moves.
God, that move isn't the game.
Yeah, that's the thing. It adds moves, but it doesn't add any moves that actually help him in any way. It just doesn't do anything for him. There is literally no reason whatsoever to pick Shock Jock. It really isn't worth it at all. It's a bad variation of a top tier character. But it is what it is. Dark Fate Terminator. Oh my god, is that the best way you can play Terminator? My goodness, it gives him the best movement. It gives him... His universal mix-ups are the scariest. It gives him the best damage. It gives him the best crushing blows. It gives him the best mileage out of his shotgun. It is just absolutely the best way of playing Terminator. Oh, my throat is dry. Hang on. Excuse me. A very good variation. Very good variation indeed. Fearless Katana, I think, improves her quite a lot. Fearless Katana, it just gives her strong zoning. You lose the ability to combo. Like, the new lift it gets, you can't combo from everything, which is definitely a downside. Like, not being able to combo left off back 2 or 1-2 is definitely a downside. But it gets better zoning across the board. Low fan is one of the stronger projectiles in the game, I feel. But it definitely trades off. But I feel like it still improves in the long run. Like, losing the ability to combo from 1-2 and back 2 for big damage doesn't mean you can't get no damage. You can still go for fan enders for a decent chunk, especially off back 2. You still get good damage off of back 1. You can still launch off back 1, which is probably her best button, honestly, overall. because it has that, it's safe, it has a crushing blow on it, and you can just get meterless damage. And overall, I still think it's a net improvement for sure. I definitely think that works out for her in the better way. Dragon's Breath, Liu Kang, I think is again also A+. Dragon's Breath is the Liu Kang you will use if you don't need the full screen options of Wuxi Legend. Maybe you just don't like it, or if low fireball. If you don't want low fireball and like offense, Dragon's Breath is the one you pick. If you don't want low fireball and want full screen game, Wuxi Legend is the one you pick. They both have the same kind of application. Only Dragon's Breath getting tick grabs makes a character whose offense is already quite scarier. There is some specific counterplay to dealing with his 50-50 stance, but it's still a 50-50 stance. Like, if you want Liu Kang with more offensive options and you don't care about the parry, you don't care about low fireball, which you have to have a really good reason to not care about either of those, Dragon's Breath is one to pick for sure. But still works. Fanfare, again, I'm going to put all 3 katana variations in A+. Genuinely, because Fanfare, you can combo off everything with the universal lift, but the air, being able to do the butt on the ground is good for Oki. It's good as an ender. The parry is really strong, and the flutter is good too. Everything about Fanfare can be put to work. I honestly think that all 3 of Katana's variations are like that. And in fact, I'm actually just going to get that out of the way right now. I'm going to put Highborn here too, because I feel like all 3 of Katana's variations have developed to have a really good place in the game. Shinobi, thank you very much for the raid, my dude. Welcome to the stream. We are currently rating individual variations by how good they are in our opinion. Or my opinion. Ketchup is here with a little bit of input, but this is mainly my input on how the game is right now. I think all 3 Katana variations are A+. I think they all improve her. They don't all unanimously improve her, but they all make her better in some way. Highborn has really good keep away. It has amazing chip damage. Arguably, I'd say the best chip damage in the game, bar none. It can be made very safe. Yes, you can force block, but there's always a mind game there of when she's going to let go. But the real strength of Highborn, like the Highborn style of kind of turn stealing, playing around complete abuse of razors, has taken a hit because the change to buffering normals out of block stun. Buff Katana? No, she's had enough buffs. She doesn't need anything else. She has taken a hit on the turn steely style, but you can still play Highborn for good keep away, a very hit and run style, play around the Seeking Sai, the universal Phantos to keep them there, teleport counter zoning, and then taking chunks of damage at a time whenever you can.
All we can say is
Fanfare, like we said before, is just a traditional katana. It doesn't hit the hardest, but it hits harder than it ever has now. It hits very good damage.
All we can say is, if you don't play this game, you're not a true gamer.
And Fearless just doesn't combo as much, but has a bit of a blend of both.
All we can say
got strong
is,
zoning.
if you don't play this game, you're not a true gamer.
Damn, 3 follows instantly. Damn, thanks for the follows, guys. I appreciate it. But I think they're all solid. I think they all improve her, just not in a way that any of them are like the best way. I think they're all good. I think they all have a space. Ringmaster Sonia, I actually still think that Ringmaster is absolutely the best way of playing Sonya, for sure. She gets the best keep away of the Sonyas, she gets the best damage of the Sonyas, she gets the best use of the mix-up of the Sonyas, thanks to the corner. It's just the best way of playing her, and it is still the most successful way. I know, obviously, you see people like Azerbaijan playing No Holds Barred, but then you see the larger success of the character has always come from Ringmaster, and it just gets a bit of everything the character is good at, and makes the best thing she's good at, the zoning, even better. So absolutely a really good one there. Truth and Light Raiden does not help. It doesn't do anything for Raiden. It loses... I don't think it makes him worse, because I don't think losing the Superman... I think it's the most important move, but it definitely doesn't help him at all. Like... It's definitely here or here. At this point, it doesn't matter as much. You think it makes him worse? I tell you what. All right, we'll do it. We'll put him down here because Truth and Light. It definitely doesn't do anything for. Okay, I tell you what. We'll use the logic of it doesn't actually do anything real for him, and it does take away an important move. So by that logic, I think you can argue that it makes him worse. So we will absolutely put him down here. It's just it's a really bad version of a character that fundamentally isn't very good. Bullock, I'm going to put up here at A+. I know some people say they want me to put him at S, but there are a number of characters, a number of there are a number of variations and characters that they actually don't let him set up, because they can just they can crushing blow a lot of stuff with counter hits to get rid of totems, and effectively without totems, Bullock is pretty much variationless outside of the disc, which they have improved a little bit. But it's not as universally applicable. It's very, very, very good. Like, it's teetering on the edge of S, but I don't think it's as universally applicable as Ascension. It's very close, though. Like, it's very much near S, in my opinion, but I don't think it's quite the same. Because, remember, this is optimized. We're not looking at top-tier variations. This is optimized versions. And I don't quite think that Bullock is truly an optimized way of playing him at the moment, especially in comparison to how Ascension is. I think Ascension is better, and Bullock is a close second, but it's not close enough to also be arguably an optimized version. I just don't see it. And also, it kind of defeats the purpose of having two variations of the same character in optimized, because this is optimized and there's multiple variations of the same character. You can't have two optimizations, right? Not really. It's either optimal or it isn't. Order of Light, I would put Order of Light in Makes Worse, because losing the default spin is a big downgrade. However, it does get to meterlessly combo off of the auto shimmy, and it is one of the best auto shimmies in the game. It does give him one good thing, but everything else is worse. Hence why I'm going to put it here, it doesn't help. Because it just doesn't. Like, the one good thing it has is dragged down by what it misses out on by not having universal spin. You know, it just isn't great. Like, again, this isn't to say that you can't win games with these characters. Like, I know there are players that play Spellmaster. I know, obviously, VGY's play Truth and Light online. I know PL's played Order of Light. But I'm rating characters by how I've seen them play. And obviously, Ketchup's played Pitch Black. And I'm, like, comparing them by the other variations and how they play. And this is just the way I see it. Hunker Down Jax is A+. Hunker Down is very good. I really think Hunker Down is just the best variation of Jax, you know? Best staggers, best mix-ups, best way of building heat, honestly, overall. Best crushing blows. It's just the best version of playing Jax. But it doesn't give... He still has to kind of snowball. He still has to build up those resources. So he's not quite optimized because he still has problems. But it's definitely the best version of Jax. But I still wouldn't say it's any more than A+. 10 Hut Sonia, I'm going to put her in Alters. I know Doom has been playing a lot of 10 Hurt, but I don't really know if I'm a believer in it. Like, looking at what she does comparatively to other variations especially, it just isn't all that. Like, it's a different style of Sonya. Like, it's a lot more kind of tricky. It's a lot more kind of, like, relentlessly keep away, I suppose, at times with how you can use the turret, but it's the only thing you can do. It's without the turret, it's variationless Sonya. And the turret isn't as easy to set up as a lot of other kind of setup moves in the game. It just doesn't do as much. You know, it really isn't... It just isn't all that. Berserker. Berserker Baraka. I would say Berserker's definitely... I would say Berserker definitely belongs here. I would say, like, maybe at the lower end of things. I think Berserker is decent, you know. It gives him safe mix-ups. It gives him true safe mix-ups. It gives him the ability to combo from his forward 4 crushing blow for good damage. He does good chip. He doesn't do as much damage as the others. He doesn't have the traditional mix-ups of the command grab, but he does have the leg kebab mix-ups. And it's all safe as well. Like, leg kebab being a safe move really helps Berserker. It's like, if you want, like, just relentless sporadic mix-ups, then take Bone Picker. And if you want, like, safer mix-ups that are more just kind of high-low, Berserker is the one for you. Marauder. Marauder is a weird one. Because I would be inclined to say it's the optimized version of playing Baraka, but I don't know if I truly believe that. I really don't know if I believe that. I feel like Marauder is, like, right at the top of A+, you know? I feel like it's right at the top of A+ here. Because... I know it's weird putting all 3 of his variations in one, but I think they're all good, but I don't know if any of them are truly straight up the best. I think all 3 of them have a really good reason to be picked. I think Marauder is better than these, so I've got these a bit lower down, I guess. Like, these aren't exactly ordered, but the higher it is, generally the better it's going to be. Not, like, to an exact science, but that's how I've got it. But that's how I'm going to put this, because I think Marauder is... It's the most traditional, stable Baraka. some of the highest conventional damage in the game. It's just really solid. It really is. Royal Edenian, I'm going to put in A+ also. I think Royal Edenian is really good. I think having a traditional projectile adds a lot to her universal kit. I don't know if I'd say S, though. I definitely don't know if I'd say S. But I definitely think A+. I would definitely say Royal Edenian is, like, right up here with, like, the Infinite Warden, the Bullock. Because, like, S is to say that it almost leaves the character with almost no hard counter for the most part. Or, like, it doesn't leave any issues. But I don't know if I don't know if I can say that Royal Edenian is quite at that. I definitely see there being an argument for it, but I don't know. I just don't know if I'd say that. Actually, you know, yeah, I am going to put Royal Edenian up here because I'm looking at what she lacks, and I actually am drawing a bit of a blank. She gets the projectile. She gets the ability to plow through Last Breath and close out games. Everything good about her is still incredible. Yeah, I actually think that she might actually be S here, you know, Royal Edenian. I can see that. And it's definitely the most successful as well, competitively. I definitely think this is the best. Outtake. Okay, here's where it gets a little bit strange. I know I said I don't want to have two characters at S tier of the same character. I think Johnny Cage might be the only character that kind of changes that. It's either going to be right at the top of A+, or it's here. I definitely think Outtake is better than these. For sure. I absolutely think Outtake is better than these. I'm going to keep Outtake up here because I think definitely worse thanks to the nerfs, but I definitely still think he's up here. Like, I know it's weird having two of the same variations of a character, or two variations of the same character in optimized, but I feel like if you want to play around force balls, it's Showstopper, and if you want the faster reversal, it's Outtake. They both have just as much of an impressive place in the game. So I definitely have this up here. Dead of Winter Sub-Zero. I think this might be another character that is up here. Because Dead of Winter is definitely the most common, but I don't know if I'd say it's optimal. Because Dead of Winter loses shoulder. And losing shoulder is a big thing for a lot of sub players. Because I really think that slide is hard to trade off for. Like, to play Dead of Winter is to play around... Like, to play optimal Dead of Winter, yes, you can combo from the overhead, so his mix-up game is scarier, but it's the buffers, it's the conversions, it's everything else that you miss out on the other variations, but you lose the slide. So, that is a big trade-off. It's a good move, like Cold Shoulder is a good move, but I don't really know if it's optimal. I think it's the best, but I think it's better than, like, Thin Ice and Avalanche personally, but not by a great deal. I definitely think there's an argument for it. Right, 4 minutes in these. Right, let's get through these. Because we're actually got through most of them. Dark Sabbath, it improves Noob, but doesn't help his mids. It doesn't help his movement. It gives him big optimal combo damage, and it gives him a good projectile, but it doesn't make his mid safe. So it's an improvement, but it's definitely not fixing all of his problems, so it improves him. Reborn. I actually think Reborn is also an A+. Because Reborn, it gives him an air throw, which is completely useless for the most part, and the teleport cancel, which is good, but it's the teleport cancel or bust, right? It gives him one good thing, like one really good thing, but it doesn't fix all of his problems. It never makes him optimal, and there is an argument for other variations. So I'm going to put Reborn high up in A+. Born Again Cetrion, I kind of want to put her at the top of alters. I know that Sonic Fox is a big believer in Born Again. I think it's RNG, so it's hard to say. When you get the good buffs, Born Again is really solid, and when you don't, it kind of doesn't... I mean, they're all kind of good, but it's hard to know which one you're going to get, right? It's kind of hard to know. You're losing Slide from one of the best specials in the game. Cold Shoulder is not one of the best specials in the game. It's annoying, but it's definitely not one of the best specials in the game. Born Again lets you play default Cetrion with a questionable application of something helpful. It depends on if it really works. It's kind of safe. No, kind of safe isn't safe. It's either safe or it isn't, for the most part. Ace of Knaves. I genuinely think Ace of Knaves is the best Joker variation. It keeps everything that's good about Joker, gives incredible setup potential. Everything that it gets is really good. And it's hard to argue why you wouldn't. Like, there are other good, like Clown Prince is good, and yes, Madman is also good. But Ace of Knaves is just better, dude. It really is just... It makes everything that Joker is good at better and doesn't lose anything. And, I mean, the more we see Fox play, the more we're going to see Ace of Knaves. And the more we're going to see other players start to pick him up as well. Clean Cut, I think Clean Cut definitely belongs... I definitely want to say that Clean Cut belongs in an improvement. Because Clean Cut, I mean, it adds a restand. It adds mix-up potential. It doesn't fix all the problems, but it does improve. Nowhere near as much as we're seeing from the spins, but it definitely is an improvement. So I'm definitely going to put Clean Cut here. It's a good middle ground. Like, this is the most kind of standard Cabal you can play, I think, if you want a little bit of mix-up. Because the spins doesn't have mix-ups as such, but it does. But a lot of them are fuzzyable in Clean Cut, and it's punishable, right? So it's unsafe, whereas the spins is just safe as houses no matter what. Alright, a couple left to go. Jaded, I think Jaded is another A+. I think Jaded has the universal good kit of Jade with a, you know, the glow is really strong. Glaive is good for restands, for advantage. And you get the ability to make yourself plus off of anything for bar spent. Doesn't fix every problem she has, but definitely helps her in a lot of other areas too. So by definition, definitely improves. Burning Spectre, it's... I feel like by definition improves, but not really in a way that makes a lot of sense. You know, it just doesn't really. It forces you to play around either... You have to play around the stance, and the stance is how you is the bread and butter of this variation. It can work and it can help out, but it's very different to everything else that Scorpion puts out. And again, the overhead and low, both very unsafe. The neutral jump punch is good. It's a really solid move, but doesn't add as much damage and isn't as oppressive in the neutral as, you know, we all thought it might be. I feel like by definition would improve, but I don't know if I could say with a straight face that I think it's as good as the other ones up here. I will put it at the top of here. I'll put it at, like, the very top of altars, honestly. True Khan, I mean, it doesn't really do that much. Like I honestly, I know that Aquaman has been playing a lot of it. I'm going to put Realm Destroyer in It Doesn't Help, because playing Shao Kahn without the shoulder is a big downgrade. You know, I just don't see it being a big help overall. Because you can still use it to a degree, like the shoulder, but it's just not the same. Like, the shoulder is the worst move you can lose, and it's not enough. It's not good enough to make up for it. Whereas True Khan, you know, you have a mid-projectile, you're playing around the taunts, but they don't work as much. Like, you can kind of get them in a game, but at the same time, kind of not really. Like, again, this is a bit like Burning Spectre, where it does add to the character, but not in any way that really makes sense. It just doesn't do as much. True Khan is low A, because it adds crushing blows. I mean, I can see it. Buzzed, I will say, you think Buzzed is S? I think it could be pretty controversial, but I would actually be inclined to agree. Because Buzzed it has some of the best mix-ups in the game, for sure. It has some of the best mix-ups in the game. It has some of the longest range in the game. Deceivingly good neutral control, especially when he has the life lead. And again, we're not talking about S tier characters. We're talking about is this an optimal way of playing the character? I genuinely think that Buzzed is the absolute optimal way that Devorah can make sense. And when we've seen Buzzed be the most successful competitively, it has been with Buzzed. And Buzzed is hard to play, is one of the hardest, if not the hardest variation to play, but it doesn't miss anything. It adds crushing blows that are useful. It adds safe variants to normally unsafe strings. Like the mid gets better. It gets a crushing blow on the high, and you get crazy good mix-up game. It really is, in my opinion, the optimized way you can play Devorah. It really is. And now we have Spawn. It's hard to say Spawn. It really is hard to say Spawn because I know he's still quite new. We haven't seen as much. So these spawn ones are going to be a little bit more kind of free-for-all. I think Hellspawn is... I don't think he has an optimal variation. I think Hellspawn and the 1 are both A+. Hellspawn is just the safest. You get the most of his kit. You keep the projectile. You keep the mace. You still do decent damage. You get some mix-ups. But there are still a couple of issues he has, like it's not the highest damage in the game. He still doesn't have a traditional confirmable launcher. Yet you have back 1, and this variation lets you use the most back 1, but you can't confirm back 1 into the full string. You kind of just have to know it's going to hit trip guard with punish or whatever. But you get more utility. You just don't plug up all of the problems. The 1, you have amazing... and you also lose the restand with Hellspawn as well, so you lose the restand. The 1, losing the mace for a launcher is a big deal, because you get the launcher, which is the main thing that Spawn is lacking, but you also lose the mace, which is probably one of the strongest things that Spawn has access to. But has a good place. He gets incredible damage, gets massive damage off of launching crushing blows, keeps the restand for even more damage. High damage character is the 1, but you lose some useful utility. But they both have that in common. These are 2 very strong variations, but they both lose some very important tools. Whereas From Hell, I'm gonna put From Hell here, because From Hell, I think From Hell is decent. I think From Hell is probably the strongest one here. But losing the projectile makes it really hard to play against a lot of characters. You keep the mace, you keep the cloak, but you don't have really that much in terms of mix-up. The dive kick isn't useful at all, really, for the most part. And the gunshots are a bit gimmicky. They do incredible chip damage, but they are not as good as the standard projectile, and they are all unsafe if the opponent knows, because the amplified version is always high. So I'm going to say that From Hell is at the top of this, and these 2 are going to be in here. So don't take exact placings to heart, but I think that actually does end things off here. So let's have one last look at this before we end things. This has been a long talk. It has been a lot longer than I was anticipating. So for those of you watching on YouTube, I might split this into 2 videos, or I'll just put it as one big discussion. But I definitely think this. I am confident with this being the way that I see the game, right? This is absolutely the way that I see the variations in this. Am I gonna put it on Twitter? I'm probably not gonna put it on Twitter, because I don't really want days of people saying, "Nah, bro, Dead of Winter is the best character in the game. No way is Reborn up there. You want to put him down here? You don't know what you're fucking talking about, mate." I really don't want days of that, so I'm probably not gonna put it on Twitter. But I'm gonna be putting it on YouTube, and obviously the main thing is I wanted to stream this for you guys here live so we can talk about it. But looking at this again, remember, one final reminder: this is not.
I'm gonna go for a pee.
Yeah, no worries. This is
still here, by the way, guys.
Yeah, and when Ryan gets back, we will make our big announcement. This is not. These are all top tier characters. This is a variation discussion. We are rating variations for each character to what it does for that character, right? That is this list. One final reminder. This is arguably the optimal way of playing that character. Arguably just the best optimal way you can go. These are variations that give the character significant improvements, but don't fix everything. These alter the characters in a way, some good, some for the worse. You know, it's up in the air. These are variations that, whilst adding moves, don't help them at all. And these are variations that are actively made worse because they don't get anything that helps. And the moves they do have replace moves that are better without them. That is how I have seen this list. So this is not a tier list for the best characters in the game. This is a list of individual variations, what they do for the character, and how they can stack up in the grand scheme of things. And I wanted to do this as people are looking into customs right now. I know that obviously Aquaman said that he's thinking about doing some custom stuff. We're thinking about doing some custom stuff as well, you know, competitively. And there are other people that are, you know, looking into playing a lot more customs in the future, especially after that GameSpot article. On the chance that customs become a bit more regular, I wanted to take one big look at the tournament variations and look at just everything about them, right? and just to see how it all goes. And I hope that you guys have enjoyed this discussion. Again, it went on for a long time. I feel like I kind of go into a lot of detail with these videos, but I feel like if you're going to do this kind of list, you may as well, right? Like, there's no point doing this if you're not going to talk about it properly, you know? Again, this is just my opinion. I'm not saying this is absolutely how the game is, but this is how this is how I see the variations in my mind, you know? It's been a fun conversation, though. I've had a lot of fun. So for those of you... Sorry, I kind of just spaced out for a minute reading chat. For those of you watching on YouTube, thanks very much for tuning in. I expect a lot of discussion, as always, for these kind of videos. It kind of just seems inevitable. Keep it respectful, you filthy animals, and I'll keep you guys in the loop in the future as well. So thanks very much for tuning in, and I'll see you guys next time.